To build a mecha, my secret stash was exposed by my wife. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 176. The product I developed doesn't need testing at all. Consultant Sue, I'd like to ask, after you finish making a product, don't you need to test it to see if it works properly? Although Guo wasn't a technical R&D personnel, testing after product development to find design flaws was a necessary step. How could Suze say he hadn't conducted any tests? Hearing Guo's question, Suze calmly replied, "My products don't need to." Suze's confidence stemmed from the fact that in the thousands of products he had developed over the past 10 years, not a single design or manufacturing defect had occurred. After ending his conversation with Suze and Songzhou, Guo looked at Ruzulin and the others on the monitor. Hearing them still calling him through the communicator, Guo picked up the communicator and continued, "Look up." Hearing Guo's words, Ruzulin and the others looked up curiously, but they didn't find anything unusual. "Team leader, what are you telling us to look at? We can't see anything." Hearing Ruzulin's words, Guo understood that the disguise mode must have been activated, which explained why they couldn't see anything. Guo controlled the tracker, slowly descending. After stopping in front of Ruzulin, Guo said, "Now you see it, right?" Ruzulin and the others looked at the flying device, which resembled a marble from childhood, and exclaimed in surprise, "Team leader, how come it's so small?" Hearing Ruzulin's words, Guo snorted twice and said, "Make it clear, it's not me who's small, it's this tracker." However, Ruzulin and the others didn't pay any attention to Guo's words. They were all currently studying the tracker. Such a small tracker, yet it could cause so much damage to Jin Haiyang. It's amazing. Ruzulin was full of praise for the tracker. "Team leader, is this a new device invented by Zudation? With this device, our missions will be so much easier. For a special department like the Security Bureau, the characteristics of the personnel on each mission are different, which determines the weapons and equipment they are best suited for. Zudation, whom Ruzulin mentioned, is a top-notch weapons and equipment modification expert within the Security Bureau, capable of customizing weapons and equipment according to the characteristics of each agent's mission. The success rate of personnel using weapons and equipment modified by Zudation significantly increased. Therefore, Ruzulin subconsciously assumed that this tracker was another masterpiece by Zudation. Hearing what Ruzulin said, Guo denied it, saying, "This wasn't modified by Zuneng. I can't tell you who modified it specifically, but I can tell you it was modified by a toy designer." Guo thought to himself, "It's too embarrassing for me to be the only one surprised. I need to see your surprised expressions too." As Guo predicted, when Ruzulin and the others heard what Guo said, they were all dumbfounded. Such incredible equipment was modified by a toy designer? They weren't mistaken. They didn't have much experience with the toy designer profession, so they immediately thought of Suzette, who had been making headlines today, whose original profession was toy designer. The conclusion was obvious. The person Guo was referring to was none other than Suzette. Suzette is amazing. He can make anything. Why don't we recruit Suzette into the Secret Service? With him modifying our equipment, our missions will be much more efficient. That's a good idea. Let's talk to the director about it when we get back. Is this guy definitely a toy designer, or a high-tech inventor? I'm really curious about the other toys this genius designs. What kind of cutting-edge technology do they use? Seeing that the crowd's surprised expressions had eased slightly, Guo dropped another bombshell. And this thing was originally just an ordinary surveillance camera. Upon hearing Guo's words, everyone began to discuss. This guy's a true genius. First, he saved the masses with a mecha model, then he took down a spy with a surveillance camera. Invincible, truly invincible. A surveillance camera? Does a genius's thought process work differently from ordinary people? This thing is so lethal. Are you sure it's a surveillance camera? If these surveillance cameras were installed all over the country, I'd like to see who would dare to commit a crime. Tired of seeing the astonished expressions of Ruzulin and the others, Guo immediately dialed Director Wang's number to report the situation. "Director Wang, I must apologize to you. This was an oversight on my part." After connecting with Guo, Director Wang said, although you made a mistake, you can't be entirely blamed. Although the process was somewhat bumpy, the result was good. Be careful to avoid similar problems in the future, understood, Director Wang, Guowen replied, hearing Director Wang's instruction. Guowen, tell me about the details of this mission. Although Director Wang had already learned about the series of events that occurred through other channels. However, the answer to how Jin Haiyang was ultimately subdued remained vague. As the overall commander of the mission, Director Wang was eager to know from Guowen how the mission was accomplished. Upon hearing Director Wang's question, Guowen recounted everything he had seen, heard, and felt. Initially, Director Wang remained calm while listening to Guowen's narration, but his expression became quite complex after hearing about the tracker's destructive power and the conversation between Song Zhou and Su Zhe. After serving as military advisor, Su Zhe became National Security Advisor in Chapter 177. This tracker, only the size of a marble, could not only covertly track spies like Jin Haiyang with his highly advanced counter-surveillance capabilities, but it also carried a weapon of immense destructive power. Crucially, Su Zhe had already reduced the weapon's lethality to 1/10 of its original value. If its power hadn't been reduced, wouldn't it be comparable to a rocket launcher? This series of information shocked Director Wang. A Sky Eye with such immense power, capable of killing silently, was initially developed simply to create a revolutionary surveillance camera. How unpredictable life is, Director Wang sighed, also recalling what Guowen had considered. The security department's system, because its work differed from other departments, had a much higher casualty and kill rate. Every year, dozens of excellent security personnel were killed by foreign spies and other dangerous terrorists while on missions. Director Wang's understanding of the advantages of other departments was not comprehensive. However, if the Sky Eye surveillance camera could be permanently deployed to a security department, it would significantly reduce the workload of personnel involved in tracking and assassinations. This would reduce annual casualties while greatly improving mission completion rates and efficiency. Old Gao is so lucky to have such a son-in-law. It seems best to let them choose their own spouses in the future. Children and grandchildren have their own destinies. However, old Gao's son-in-law is truly mysterious. Such a genius, and all these years he's just a toy designer. What a waste. If he joined the security department, that would be wonderful. Since Su Zhe was willing to become a military advisor, becoming an advisor to the security department shouldn't be a problem, right? Director Wang immediately perked up at this thought. He didn't know how successful it would be if Guowen approached Su Zhe directly. It would be better to contact Gao Luofei and ask her to inquire whether Su Zhe agreed. However, before that, Director Wang first instructed Guowen, talk to Su Zhe and see if he can sell the technical data related to this Sky Eye. As for the price, Guowen, do you know how much the country spent on the Mecha technology? Hearing Director Wang's question, Guowen immediately replied, Director, 1 billion plus future profit sharing. Director Wang listened to Guowen's words and then said, you know our department's budget is limited. My upper limit for you is 100 million. As long as it doesn't exceed that price, it's fine. Although the security department isn't as wealthy as the military, don't forget that today they intercepted the mission funds that the US was sending to Jin Haiyang. According to relevant regulations, half of the funds, or 300 million yuan, can be used by the security department. Therefore, Director Wang dared to say he would spend 100 million to buy Su Zhe's Sky Eye-related technology. To be honest, 100 million is really generous. Although there are no subsequent profits, Su Zhe wouldn't lose out. Understood, Director. Mission accomplished. After Guowen finished his call with Director Wang, his communicator also received good news. Team leader, Zhang Su has been caught and is currently being interrogated. Compared to Jin Haiyang, a big fish, Zhang Su was just a small fry, making his capture very easy. Understood, I understand. Thank you all for your hard work. Get some rest. Although he knew that Marui hadn't been harmed by Jin Haiyang except for being frightened, Song Zhou still said goodbye to Su Zhe and Gao Luofei, and drove towards the hospital where Marui had been taken for examination. Husband, you're so amazing. Gao Luofei looked at Su Zhe, her eyes filled with admiration. Looking at Gao Luofei, Su Zhe stroked her smooth hair and said, Luofei, actually, seeing that Su Zhe was about to say something, Gao Luofei gently interrupted him and slowly said, honey, I know you have many secrets, but you don't need to tell me. Let me discover them slowly. Okay, honey, my phone's ringing. I'll take this call. Gao Luofei's phone rang. Seeing it was Director Wang calling, Gao Luofei wasn't surprised at all. "Uncle Wang, hello. How have you and Auntie been lately?" After all, the Suze incident had caused quite a stir, so it wasn't unreasonable for Director Wang to be alarmed. "Luofei, your auntie and I are both fine. It's just that Yan Yan keeps saying she misses you and wants to visit you during summer vacation." "I miss Yan Yan too. If Yan Yan isn't busy during summer vacation, let her come over." Wang Yuyan is Director Wang's daughter. Although she's 5 years younger than Gao Luofei, the two have been playing together since childhood and have a very good relationship. Since marrying Suzette, the two haven't seen each other for a long time, except for occasional video chats. Gao Luofei was very happy to welcome Wang Yuyan. However, Gao Luofei knew that someone as high-ranking and powerful as Director Wang wouldn't call her just to discuss this matter. After exchanging pleasantries, Director Wang got straight to the point. "Luofei, I called you today because there's something else I need your help with." "Uncle Wang, just tell me directly. I'll definitely help if I can." "Luofei, Suze is already a military advisor. Could you ask him if he could also serve as an advisor for the security department?" "Don't worry, Uncle Wang will definitely make sure Suze doesn't suffer any losses. He'll receive all the due salary and benefits." Chapter 178 Wife, I hid this 900 million because Songzhou is going bankrupt. Gao Luofei hadn't expected Director Wang to call her about this. Being a military advisor was already impressive for Suzette. It was a position many dreamed of. But if Suzette was also an advisor to the security department, then he had two advisors, a double benefit, far beyond a simple 1 + 1 = 2. As far as Gao Luofei knew, there were fewer than 10 people nationwide who held both positions simultaneously, extremely rare. Thinking about how outstanding her husband was, Gao Luofei felt genuinely happy. "Uncle Wang, I'll ask Suzette about this and get back to you later." Hanging up the phone, Gao Luofei turned to seek Suzette's opinion when she saw Guo and standing in front of Suzette, saying something. As Gao Luofei approached, she heard Guo say to Suzette, "Suzette, can the technical data of the Sky Eye surveillance camera system be sold to the security department?" Hearing Guo's question, Suzette replied, "As long as the price is right, it can be sold. For technology that could enhance national strength, as long as it wasn't from foreign powers and the price wasn't exorbitant, Suzette had no problem selling the technology." Receiving Suzette's affirmative answer, Guo said with some excitement, "Suzette, as for the price of the technology, I've discussed it with our Director Wang. Although it's not as much as the 1 billion yuan plus subsequent profit sharing from the Mecha technology sale, our security department is very sincere and plans to acquire it for 100 million yuan, of course, after the sale, as long as it complies with relevant national regulations. We will not prevent the civilian use of this technology. We hope these conditions will satisfy you." Suzette, as Guo spoke, he kept a close eye on Suzette's expression. Guo noticed that when he mentioned the acquisition price, Suzette's expression visibly became serious. This made Guo uneasy. Had he said something wrong, or was the price he offered lower than Suzette's expectations? But 100 million was already a very reasonable price, and it wouldn't affect Suzette's civilian use of the technology. Why would Suzette be dissatisfied? Suzette had no complaints about the 100 million acquisition price. To be honest, it was a very generous price. Suzette's expression became serious, even somewhat unpleasant, because Gao Luofei had heard everything Guo had just said. Sure enough, the next second, Gao Luofei asked Guo with a questioning tone, "Team Leader Guo, are you saying the Mecha technology was sold for 1 billion, Ms. Gao?" "It's more than 1 billion. Besides the 1 billion paid in full now, if the Mecha technology is used elsewhere in the future, a portion of the revenue will also be deposited into Suzette's bank account." Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Guo ignored Suzette's expression and answered her question without any tact. After hearing what Guo said, Gao Luofei asked with great confusion, "My husband just gave me a bank card with only 100 million in it. How can it be that 1 billion has already been paid?" Looking at the bank card Gao Luofei produced, Guo replied, "Ms. Gao, academicianly gave Suzette 2 bank cards. This card has 100 million in it, and the other card contains the remaining 900 million plus future profits." As soon as Guo finished speaking, he saw Gao Luofei looking at Suzette with a playful expression, and Guo seemed to understand something. Thinking of that possibility, Guo understood why Suzette's expression had changed so quickly earlier. "Serves you right for being so talkative. Now this deal is probably going to be difficult. As for Gao Luofei, she finally understood. It wasn't that the Mecha technology was only sold for 100 million, it was because Suzer had hidden the remaining money. Gao Luofei also understood why Suzer had stopped her from making the phone call. He was afraid that if she made the call, the true price of the Mecha would be revealed. Gao Luofei felt a little angry when she thought about how Suzer had said he only sold it for 100 million to save the country some money. Looking at Gao Luofei, who was staring at him with a playful expression, waiting for his explanation, Suzer cautiously said, "Wife, allow me to explain. Wife, the reason I didn't tell you about the other bank card wasn't because I wanted to hide money. Wife, you're so good, so beautiful, so understanding. You let me spend whatever I want, so I have absolutely no need to hide money, right?" Hearing Suzer's praise and his confident words, Gao Luofei's expression finally softened, but she still said, "Husband, then why didn't you tell me about that bank card? Actually, I wasn't planning to tell you this, but since I can't hide it anymore, I'll be frank, wife, the reason I hid this 900 million is because Song Zhou's business is having some problems, he might go bankrupt. I planned to use this 900 million to help him out. Song Zhou's business was in bad shape before, and his cash flow dried up. He owes a lot of money to others and banks, and he needs 900 million to barely get through this difficult time. Didn't you see how happy Song Zhou looked when I talked to him about marriage? That's why. So, after I found out about this, I wanted to give Song Zhou this money for his urgent needs. But I was afraid you'd worry if you found out, so I decided not to tell you." Chapter 179 Wife, you're mine for life, so keep the money. When Suzer spoke, his expression, demeanor, and tone were all very serious, showing no sign of pretense. Hearing Suzer's words, Gao Luofei recalled that Song Zhou's expression hadn't been happy, and Suzer's explanation seemed to explain it all. She could understand why Suzer was hiding so much money. Realizing she had misunderstood Suzer's hidden stash of money, Gao Luofei's previously slightly angry and playful expression completely vanished, replaced by a gentle tone as she said to Suzer, "Honey, you can just tell me about these things directly. I support whatever decision you make, but I just hope you won't hide things from me in the future." Suzer met Gao Luofei's gaze, and seeing her gentle, tender eyes, he nodded gently. However, Suzer's heart wasn't as calm as his face suggested. He felt a pang of heartache. Although Gao Luofei's explanation had been accepted, according to the system's rules, this 900 million yuan and subsequent profits no longer counted as his private savings. In other words, Suzer's total personal savings had decreased by 2 or 3 billion. Thinking about the substantial amount of technology points that 2 or 3 billion could have converted, Suzer felt a pang of heartache, and his gaze towards Guowen became somewhat hostile. It was all Guowen's fault. If he hadn't been so talkative, they wouldn't have suffered such a huge loss. Thinking of the advanced technology that had vanished, Suzer felt tears welling up inside. Standing beside the two, Guowen unconsciously broke out in a sweat of tension. His anxiety had been even greater than when facing a group of terrorists with rifles. However, after seeing that Suzer and Gao Luofei had cleared up the misunderstanding and everything was alright, Guowen breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness Suzer had cleverly salvaged the situation. Otherwise, if Suzer had been in a bad mood, things would definitely have gone wrong. "Honey, Director Wang from the security department just called me. He wants to invite you to be a consultant for the security department. What do you think?" Gao Luofei looked at Suzer and brought up the matter Director Wang had mentioned. Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Suzer nodded and replied, "Since Director Wang has told you about this, I agree." Besides Gao Luofei's reasons, Suzer also valued the special powers of the security department's advisors. For example, under certain circumstances, they had the authority to use lethal weapons. Hearing Suzer's agreement, Gao Luofei nodded and said, "Since you agree, I'll tell Director Wang." After saying that, Gao Luofei picked up her phone and dialed Director Wang's number. "Uncle Wang, Suzer has agreed to what you just said." Seeing Gao Luofei leave, Guowen came to Suzer's side and whispered, "Suzer, I'm sorry, I didn't know that thing couldn't be said." Team Leader Guo, what are you saying? I don't understand, Suzer asked Guowen with a puzzled look. Advisor Su, I'm so sorry, it's my fault. You're an advisor to the security department now, so please understand, we're colleagues. Hearing Suzer's words, Guowen said anxiously, though he kept his voice low for fear of Gao Luofei overhearing. Suzanne naturally understood the importance of the Sky Eye technology, although he was somewhat resentful of Guowen's actions. However, thinking of how Sky Eye could save so many security department personnel in dangerous situations, these heroes in the darkness, Suzanne didn't continue to make things difficult for Guowen. Team Leader Guo, what are you saying? I really don't understand what you're apologizing for. Weren't we just discussing selling the Sky Eye technology? I'm very satisfied with the price you offered. It's a pleasure to cooperate. Seeing Suzanne extend his hand, Guowen quickly shook it and said, Advisor Su, it's a pleasure to cooperate. Welcome to the security department family in the future. Since the matter was settled, Guowen called Ru Ziulin and asked her to bring the contract. Ziulin, this is our new consultant, Suzanne. The tracker you just saw was invented by Consultant Su. Hearing Guowen's introduction, Ru Ziulin said to Suzanne, Consultant Su, hello. Thank you so much for your help this time. It's nothing, it's all for the country. After exchanging greetings, Ru Ziulin brought out the contract, and Suzanne and Guowen signed it, officially completing the transaction. Team Leader Guo, here you go. This hard drive contains the relevant technology for Sky Eye. Originally, this hard drive was for Songzhou, but since things had changed, Suzanne gave it to Guowen. Taking the hard drive from Suzanne, Guowen solemnly placed it in the safe that Ru Ziulin had brought for safekeeping. Consultant Su, tell me your bank account number, and I'll arrange for someone to transfer the money in a bit. After putting the hard drive away, Guowen said to Suzanne. 6229 4021 Suzanne said, and Ru Ziulin, who was in charge of recording, wrote down the number Suzanne gave. Standing beside Suzanne, Gao Luofei, upon hearing that the bank card number Suzanne gave her was her own, said to him, Honey, you can keep the money yourself. If Songzhou needs it, this 100 million might come in handy. Wife, Suzanne replied, Songzhou already has 900 million. The money is the same whether it's with you or with me, it's all ours anyway. You're mine for life, and we'll never divorce. Just accept it, wife. For Suzanne, no matter how large the amount, this transaction wasn't considered as personal stash. For Suzanne, who was solely focused on scientific research, more money was practically worthless. Chapter 180 Husband, I want to have your baby. Hearing Suzanne's sweet words, Gao Luofei smiled sweetly and said to Suzanne, My dear husband, if you need money, just tell me. Seeing the loving couple, Ru Ziulin was very envious of Gao Luofei. Suzanne was not only handsome and rich, but also talented. Most importantly, this man was incredibly romantic. His sweet words flowed effortlessly from his lips. Gao Luofei and Suzanne were a truly enviable and loving couple, the dream of countless young girls. Advisor Su, then we won't disturb you two any longer. We'll take our leave now. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, Guowen and his group of four, considering the need to immediately send the relevant technical data of Sky Eye back to this Hongdu Security Department branch, decided to take their leave. Hearing Guowen's words, Suzanne nodded and said, Team Leader Guo, there's no need to deploy 6 men from the security department around here. Let some of them go back and rest. To protect Suzanne and Gao Luofei's safety, Guowen had indeed deployed 6 men around the area. Hearing Suzanne directly state the number of people, Guowen wasn't surprised at all. After all, Suzanne could even create such an incredible surveillance camera as Sky Eye, so knowing this information seemed effortless. Moreover, recalling the surveillance footage he'd just seen, there were 8 cameras around Suzanne's house, providing comprehensive monitoring of the surrounding area. With these Sky Eyes, 6 people were indeed unnecessary. Therefore, Guowen said to Suzanne, Okay, Consultant Su, then leave 2 people behind. If anything happens, just notify me immediately, and I'll arrange for others to come. After making the arrangements, Ru Ziulin left with Guowen. Shortly after Guowen and Ru Ziulin left, Suzanne and Gao Luofei arrived at the first-floor storage room and saw that it had been restored to its original state. Seeing Suzanne and Gao Luofei, Wang Huan approached Suzanne and said, Mr. Su, Ms. Gao, the collection room has been restored. Do you see anything wrong, Mr. Wang's work ethic is very meticulous, we don't need to check, he was joking. Wang Huan had recently been promoted because of Suzanne, and he was incredibly meticulous about this matter. With Wang Huan supervising, the quality was guaranteed, there were no defects, minor flaws, or common quality issues. Hearing Suzanne's words, Wang Huan was genuinely happy. After all, His superior's approval meant a bright future. As for Gao Luofei, although she didn't understand why Suze said that, seeing Wang Huan's slightly obsequious and respectful expression, she knew there wouldn't be any problems. Therefore, Gao Luofei didn't bother to check anything. Mr. Su, thank you for your guidance, President Wang. There's no need to be so polite. This is all because of your diligent work attitude. You deserve it. Seeing Wang Huan so grateful to Suzette, Gao Luofei asked curiously, "Honey, do you know President Wang?" Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Suzette explained, "We didn't know each other before, but President Wang knows Song Zhou." "I see, Mr. Su. Ms. Gao, I'll be going now. I won't disturb you any longer." Now that the matter was settled, Wang Huan took his leave. After seeing Wang Huan off, Suzette and Gao Luofei returned to the living room. After a long day, they both sat on the sofa to rest. However, after sitting for a while, Suzette lay on his side, resting his head on Gao Luofei's long, slender, white legs. Smelling the familiar and charming faint fragrance emanating from Gao Luofei, Suzette felt completely relaxed. Looking at Suzette, whose eyes were closed and whose face was handsome and refined, Gao Luofei said softly, "Husband, what happened today feels like a dream. I was hoping that your talent would be discovered by everyone, but now I realize that even I've only seen the tip of the iceberg. Opportunities that others dream of, you just refused. You earned 1.1 billion in one day, more than I've earned in all these years of work. It feels unreal." Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Suzette said, "Wife, it all feels real. No matter what, I'm still your husband. We have a marriage certificate. Husband, I want a child." Suddenly, Suzette heard Gao Luofei say, "Wife, didn't you say you weren't in a hurry?" Before this, Suzette had talked to Gao Luofei about having children. Gao Luofei's wish was that they were still young and there was no need to rush. She wanted to enjoy more time together as a couple. Gao Luofei's sudden change of heart surprised Suzette. "I wasn't in a hurry before, but it suddenly occurred to me that if we have all the babies, I won't be able to have more for you, my husband. That would be a waste of your excellent genes and your brilliant mind, a huge loss for the country. So, my husband, thank you for your hard work these next few days." Hearing Gao Luofei's reason, Suzette smiled and said, "Not just me, but you too, my wife. You're so beautiful. Your children will definitely be beautiful and adorable. Besides, what hardship is there for me? It should be you who suffers." Hearing Suzette's words, Gao Luofei's face flushed slightly. After speaking, the love in Suzette and Gao Luofei's eyes grew stronger as they looked at each other, and the distance between them drew closer. Just as they were about to meet, a knock on the door interrupted their progress. "Husband, I'll go open the door." With that, Gao Luofei avoided Suzette's eyes and headed towards the door. Chapter 181 Marui, even if you were given to Suzette for free, he wouldn't want you. "Marui, are you alright?" Upon arriving at Zhongdu City Hospital and seeing Marui accompanied by personnel from the security department, Song Zhou quickly ran to Marui's side and asked with concern, "Song Zhou, why are you here?" Marui hadn't intended to tell Song Zhou about what had happened today, fearing he would worry about her. But unexpectedly, Song Zhou came on his own, even though she hadn't notified him. Instinctively, Marui assumed the security department had notified her and looked at the person beside her. However, seeing the security personnel shake their heads, Marui knew it wasn't them. "Marui, I'll follow you. From now on, don't open the door if strangers knock, okay? It's too dangerous." "I was just lucky this time." Reaching Marui, Song Zhou looked her up and down, and only after confirming she was alright did he relax and begin to nag her. "Song Zhou, I'm fine, don't worry." Seeing Song Zhou's concerned eyes, Marui felt a warmth in her heart. However, upon hearing Song Zhou's nagging, she asked him with a puzzled look, "Song Zhou, you still haven't answered me. How did you know I was here, and how did you know about the stranger knocking on our door today? Could it be?" Suddenly, Marui thought of something and swung her fist at Song Zhou. "Song Zhou, you pervert. You shameless bastard. Don't you know it's illegal to install a camera in my house? Do you believe I'll call the police?" Song Zhou, enduring Marui's punches, realized she had misunderstood and quickly explained, "Marui, let me explain. It's not what you think. How could I be a thug? Oh, I didn't expect it to be like this. I told you I didn't see any guns. Why did Jin Haiyang suddenly act like that?" After being beaten up by Marui, Song Zhou finally explained the situation. His words cleared up all of Marui's doubts, making sense of everything that seemed unreasonable. Songzhou, I'm fine too. I was able to escape danger this time thanks to your brother Suze's help. How about this? It's not too late today. Come with me and thank him in person. Hearing Marui's suggestion, Songzhou nodded and left Zhongdu City Hospital after confirming that Marui was alright. As for the security personnel who accompanied Marui for the examination, they all took their leave and went back to report. On the way to Suze's house, Songzhou showered Suze with endless praise in front of Marui. Marui, do you know, my brother Suze is much more handsome than me. He's as handsome as Panin. No one can compare. Not only is he handsome, but he's also very talented. I don't know if you know about the Mecha incident that happened in Zhongdu City today. That Mecha was also built by my brother Suzette. Under Songzhou's endless flattery, Marui's curiosity about meeting Suze was off the charts. However, looking at Songzhou's boastful tone, Marui said with amusement, Songzhou, you're praising your brother so much, aren't you afraid I'll fall for your brother Suzette? Hearing Marui's words, Songzhou paused, then glanced at her and said, no, with your looks, compared to my sister-in-law, the national goddess Gao Luofei, it's like heaven and earth. My brother and sister-in-law fell in love at first sight, and they're very much in love with your looks. Only I would be interested in you. Even if you were given to my brother Suze for free, he wouldn't want you. Hearing Songzhou's words, Marui immediately exploded, yelling at him, Songzhou, you bastard, do you know what will happen to you after saying that? Marui, I'm driving. Stop it. Marui, I'm sorry, please stop hitting me. Marui. Watching Gao Luofei's graceful back, Suze was somewhat annoyed. Who is it, at such a crucial moment, really spoiling the mood? Upon arriving at the gate, Gao Luofei looked through the peephole and saw Songzhou and Marui, whom she had seen on the monitor, standing outside. She then opened the gate. As the gate opened, Marui saw Gao Luofei standing at the door with a smile. Sister-in-law, this is my girlfriend, Marui. Marui, this is my sister-in-law, Gao Luofei. Upon seeing Gao Luofei, Songzhou introduced them to Marui and Gao Luofei. Marui had previously focused on scientific research and wasn't very familiar with the entertainment industry. She had only heard of Gao Luofei. Marui's first impression of Gao Luofei was one of stunning beauty, and the more she looked at Gao Luofei, the more captivating her unique charm became. Seeing Gao Luofei's true appearance today, Marui had to admit that her previously quite satisfactory looks and figure were indeed quite different from Gao Luofei's. Indeed, compared to Gao Luofei, she had no advantage whatsoever. Upon hearing Songzhou's introduction, Marui greeted Gao Luofei. Hello, sister-in-law, I'm Marui. Hello, Marui, I'm Gao Luofei, Suze's wife. Looking at the gentle and elegant Gao Luofei, Marui was very curious about who Suze was, to have married such a stunning beauty. Honey, Songzhou and Marui are here. Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Suze walked towards Songzhou and Marui who had entered the house. When Marui saw Suze approaching, her eyes lit up, and she thought with surprise, Songzhou wasn't wrong. Suze and Gao Luofei are both so good-looking, truly a handsome couple. Marui, let me formally introduce you. This is the brother I introduced to you on the way here, Suzette. Chapter 182. Songzhou is just an employee, not a boss. Brother Zet, I won't introduce this one. This is my girlfriend, Marui. After hearing that you saved her, Marui wanted to come and thank you, so I brought her along. Hello, Brother Zet. I heard from Songzhou that you saved my life today. Thank you so much. Marui thanked Suze very respectfully. Hearing Marui's thanks, Suze said, no need to be so polite. After the four of them greeted each other, Suze thought he should tell Songzhou about what had just happened beforehand, so that Songzhou wouldn't make a mistake and let Gao Luofei find out something was wrong. Therefore, Suze said to Gao Luofei, wife, you chat with Marui for a while. I have something to say to Songzhou. Hearing what Suze said, Gao Luofei thought that Suze might be handing over the bank card with 900 million yuan in it to Songzhou, so she nodded and led Marui towards the sofa. Marui, let's eat and chat. Okay, Luofei. Since marrying Suzette, Gao Luofei's cold temperament had lessened. Although it was their first meeting, Marui felt a strong sense of kinship, without any awkwardness or unfamiliarity. This was a strange feeling for someone like Marui who had few friends. Old Su, why did you bring me here? After being pulled into the collection room by Suzette, Song Zhou stared at Suzette. Seeing Suzette's serious expression, Song Zhou thought about the situation today and asked Suzette. As soon as Song Zhou finished speaking, Suzette, with a serious expression, said to Song Zhou in a solemn tone, "Old Song, remember, your cash flow is broken, your business is in trouble, and you need 900 million yuan for emergency relief. Wait a minute, old Su, what bankruptcy? Aren't all the companies I manage yours?" Hearing what Suzette said, Song Zhou was about to retort, but he stopped himself as soon as he finished speaking. Thinking about his dealings with Suzette over the years, Suzette must have his own reasons for saying this, and it was probably true that he had unknowingly taken the blame for Suzette again. "Old Su, if you're going to use me as a shield in the future, can you at least discuss it with me beforehand?" Song Zhou was afraid that he might misjudge things and ruin Suzette's plans. Hearing Song Zhou's words, Suzette replied, "I know, it just happened so suddenly, I didn't have time, so I'm telling you now. Here, there's 900 million in this card. Just find an opportunity to say the company crisis is over, and then return it to me." Saying that, Suzette handed another bank card to Song Zhou. Taking the bank card, Song Zhou put it in his inner pocket. In the 8 years he had been Suzette's assistant, Suzette would always inexplicably take out a portion of money and give it to him to manage. However, when he heard the amount Suzette mentioned, Song Zhou was still quite surprised. Suzette's money-making ability was terrifying. Where did he earn another 900 million from? But then, thinking about the assets he managed for Suzette, he felt relieved. 900 million didn't seem like that much. Sitting on the sofa with Gao Luofei, looking at the photos of the two of them so affectionately scattered around, Marui said enviously to Gao Luofei, "Sister Luofei, you and brother Zhe are so loving. I'm so envious of you too." Unlike Song Zhou, after so many years together, he has absolutely no romance. Hearing Marui's praise, Gao Luofei was very happy, her smile widening. However, Gao Luofei then said to Marui, "I can tell that Song Zhou loves you very much. You don't know how nervous and worried he was tonight when you were kidnapped." Thinking of Song Zhou's appearance at the hospital earlier, Marui could automatically imagine his state at that time. However, being nervous was only temporary, but Marui was still unhappy about it, saying, "So what if he was nervous? He's such a blockhead. We've been together for so long, and he hasn't shown any affection. How could that be? Marui, do you know that Song Zhou told me and Suzette today that he plans to marry you? He said he wants to marry me." Marui was the first to disbelieve Gao Luofei's words. Judging from Song Zhou's usual demeanor, how could he possibly be the type to marry her? "Sister Luofei, are you mistaken? If Song Zhou really had this in mind, why didn't he mention it to me?" Gao Luofei couldn't conveniently discuss Song Zhou's business problems, but thinking of the two Louis Vuitton and Hermes black cards, she said to Marui, "Actually, I think Song Zhou was planning to surprise you, so he didn't tell you beforehand. Also, he might have been quite busy lately. You know, big bosses like Song Zhou are usually very busy." "Big boss? Sister Luofei, are you mistaken? Song Zhou is just an employee, not a big boss at all." Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Marui asked with a puzzled look. "Employee? How could that be? Isn't Song Zhou the big boss of Yaoli Glass and New Future Metals?" Gao Luofei clearly remembered that Song Zhou was the boss of both companies. How could Marui say that Song Zhou was just an employee? "Sister Luofei, you must be mistaken. I don't know much about New Future Metal Company, but in the early stages of my relationship with Song Zhou, I also thought Yaoli Glass Company was his. However, after getting to know Song Zhou better, I learned that the real boss of Yaoli Glass didn't have time to manage the company. Song Zhou was just helping the real boss with some things," Marui said with great certainty. Hearing what Marui said, Gao Luofei was very surprised. If Song Zhou was just helping to manage the company, then how did Song Zhou's company run into problems and need 900 million yuan? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 183 Mecha Technology Data arrives in the capital. Since it was their first meeting, Marui wouldn't lie to her about this. So, either Suzette was lying, or Song Zhou was. "Sister Luofei, what are you thinking about?" Marui asked Gao Luofei, who was deep in thought. "Nothing, just thinking about some things." Gao Luofei replied, snapping out of her daze. Unbeknownst to Gao Luofei and Marui, Suze and Songzhou had overheard their conversation. Old Su, you're finished, Songzhou said with amusement. Though he didn't speak, Suze understood. Suze simply replied to Songzhou's expression, thank you for your hard work later. Seeing Suze's reaction, Songzhou turned and headed towards the living room before saying anything more. Gao Luofei and Marui, sitting on the sofa, heard Suze and Songzhou's footsteps and then saw them walking out, chatting and laughing. Seeing Gao Luofei and Marui chatting on the sofa, Suze chuckled and said, wife, what are you and Marui talking about? Hearing Suze's question, Gao Luofei replied, honey, I'm just talking to Marui about her relationship with Songzhou. Songzhou? Marui asked when you're going to propose to him. This, Songzhou scratched his head, looking quite embarrassed. Seeing Songzhou's expression, Marui said with a slightly displeased tone, what's wrong? Judging from your tone, you're not happy, Marui, you've misunderstood. With so many years of relationship with Songzhou, how could he not be happy? Songzhou just has his own difficulties right now, right, Songzhou? As Suze spoke, out of Gao Luofei and Marui's sight, he gave Songzhou a wink. Seeing Suze's meaningful look, Songzhou returned it with a you owe me a favor gaze, then said, Marui, you misunderstood me. How could I not be happy? It's just that there's something I forgot to tell you. Actually, I originally planned to propose to you this time, but my business ran into some problems. If things go wrong, I might end up owing a lot of money, so I cancelled my original plan. Your business ran into problems? Aren't you just responsible for managing other people's businesses? How did something happen to you? Hearing Songzhou's words, Marui asked, quite puzzled. Yes, I'm just a business manager. How could my business run into problems? Marui's question left Songzhou speechless for a moment. Seeing Songzhou's stammering expression, Marui immediately said anxiously, Songzhou, what are you muttering about? Speak up, it's like this, Songzhou explained, managing other people's businesses is stable, but the pay is low. I was thinking that if we don't have enough money after we get married, it will make you unhappy, so I thought I'd take out some money and start a business with someone. Who could have predicted that the business would fail and I'd owe a lot of money? I don't have that much money, so I thought I'd borrow money from Brother Z to pay off the debt. Because of this, I don't want you to have to help pay off debts after marrying me, so I cancelled the original proposal ceremony. After he finished speaking, Suze couldn't help but admire Songzhou's story-making ability. In such a short time, he was able to come up with such a reasonably reasonable request. Indeed, no one should be underestimated, potential is often brought out under pressure. Thinking back to Songzhou's previous complaints about managing too many companies, Suze felt he needed to push Songzhou a little further and entrust him with managing some more businesses. Maybe this would force Songzhou to unleash his potential, and then Songzhou wouldn't complain anymore, he might even thank him. Suze didn't voice this thought aloud. If Songzhou knew Suze's intentions, he would probably betray him immediately and tell Gao Luofei the whole truth. Hearing Songzhou's explanation, Marui immediately stood up and said to Songzhou, Songzhou, I'm after you, not your money. You don't need to take that risk, we'll figure out the money together. I have some savings here, take it to pay back the money. Saying this, Marui opened her handbag to give Songzhou her bank card. Seeing Marui's actions, Songzhou stopped her, saying, Marui, it's okay. Brother Z has already given me the money, it's already been paid back. It's alright, the whole thing was fake anyway, it would be inappropriate to accept Marui's money. Seeing this, Gao Luofei said to Songzhou, Songzhou, look at Marui, she's already like this. Cherish her. You two should start planning the wedding. Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Suze chimed in, Fifi is right. Since things have come to this, you two should set a date today, meet each other's parents, get engaged, and get married. Marui blushed when she heard what Suze and Gao Luofei were saying. Given this, Songzhou knew things had come to this point. Thinking that Marui's values were compatible with his, he couldn't just do nothing. So Songzhou knelt down on one knee, took out a delicate necklace, and said to Marui, Marui, time was too short, I didn't have time to prepare for the wedding. I'll take this necklace as a token of our love. Marui, marry me. Seeing this, Marui covered her mouth, her eyes filled with tears of emotion. I do. Upon receiving Marui's reply, Songzhou stood up and put the necklace on her. Watching the heartwarming scene, Gao Luofei said with a hint of jealousy, "Husband, seeing them reminds me of when you proposed to me." Meanwhile, a plane carrying Mecha technology data arrived at the capital airport. Chapter 184 American spies all taken down. The importance of the Mecha technology data goes without saying. When the plane arrived at the capital airport, countless tanks, armored vehicles, and military vehicles were neatly lined up on the runway, surrounded by heavily armed soldiers and Secret Service personnel. After the plane came to a stop, the cabin door opened, and Li Jianguo stepped off the plane carrying a secure case. "Old Li, you've worked hard this time," Gao Yuanshan said to Li Jianguo as he stepped off. Hearing Gao Yuanshan's words, Li Jianguo replied, "Old Gao, it's nothing, no hardship at all. Let's hurry up, they must be getting impatient." Gao Yuanshan thought it made sense, and the two of them got into an armored vehicle and, escorted by soldiers, headed towards the secret research base. Along the way, the area the vehicle passed through was heavily sealed off. Seeing this setup, even the well-informed citizens of the capital secretly wondered what could be so important that such a large-scale escort was being deployed. Mecha, as a research field covering a very wide range of disciplines. The research team engaged in this field is a large, top-notch research team composed of 5 academicians from the National Academy of Sciences and the National Academy of Engineering. After hearing about the emergence of Mecha, these leading figures who were originally engaged in scientific research were summoned to this secret research base. At this moment, sitting in the conference room of the secret research base are all elderly people with white hair. These academicians have an average age of 70, and each one can be described as an unparalleled national hero. On their way here, they understood the purpose of being summoned here, and they waited expectantly for the technical data brought by Li Jianguo. To be honest, when these academicians from the Academy of Sciences and the National Academy of Engineering saw the performance of the Mecha created by Suzanne, they all felt very ashamed. As academicians, they enjoyed the most advanced equipment provided by the country. Let alone Mecha, they hadn't even figured out exoskeletons yet. This huge gap made them feel ashamed. However, in their hearts, these academicians actually hoped that such things would happen more often. After all, the more things like this happen, the more prosperous and flourishing the country's future will be, and these older folks can finally rest easy. Old Wang, you've seen the video of the Mecha, haven't you? I never imagined our country had such extraordinary talent. Yeah, you know, when I first heard about this, I thought it was something a professor from a university, around our age, had done. But after looking into it, I found out it was created by a young man under 30. The younger generation is truly surpassing the older. If there were more people like this, we could retire and enjoy our golden years. Old Zhang, that's not being honest. The institute has been urging you to retire, but you just didn't want to. Just as the 5 highly respected academicians were talking, Gao Yuanshan pushed open the conference room door, and Li Jianguo, carrying a secure case, walked in. Upon seeing Li Jianguo, the 5 academicians' gazes automatically fell on the secure case in his hand. Li Jianguo remained remarkably calm. Having dealt with these 5 academicians for so many years, Li Jianguo knew their temperaments very well. After placing the secure box on the table, he entered the password, opened it, took out a hard drive, and said to them, "This hard drive contains the technical data for the Mecha. Plug it into your computers and copy it out to look at." Hearing this, the 5 academicians started arguing like school children. "I was here first, I'll copy first, my computer is already on, I'll go first, I'm the oldest, let me go first." No one looked down on their argument. After all, they weren't fighting for their own selfish gain, but for the sake of the entire country and nation. Ice Wolf, the fallen angel, has been captured. Meanwhile, compared to this, Ice Wolf and Red Lotus, hiding in Hongdu City, also learned from various sources that their superior, the fallen angel, had been captured. At first, the two didn't believe the Secret Service could have such capabilities. However, after failing to reach the fallen angel by phone, they realized it wasn't an exaggeration, but reality. Without their superior, they had essentially lost their only connection to America. At this moment, they were like rootless duckweed, unsure of what to do. "Red Lotus, what should we do now?" Hearing Ice Wolf's anxious voice, Red Lotus replied, "Let's pause the mission and observe the situation." However, shortly after Red Lotus finished speaking, the door was kicked open from the outside, and a group of heavily armed personnel rushed into the room. "Ice Wolf, Red Lotus, we are from the Secret Service. You are surrounded. Surrender. Seeing these people, Ice Wolf and Red Lotus instantly understood that they had been discovered. They also knew that, given what they had done, their future was likely over. With their capture, it also marked the complete eradication of American spies in Hongdu City. While Johnson was in his office in the United States handling official business, his secretary suddenly burst in and brought him bad news. Mr. Johnson, the fallen angel, Ice Wolf, Red Lotus, and all their associates have been arrested by the Chinese Secret Service. Chapter 185 The Black Hand arrives, crisis resurfaces. What? Tell me what happened. Johnson was greatly surprised upon hearing his secretary's report and immediately asked. After all, the fallen angel was considered one of America's best spies, and had performed admirably in his missions. He hadn't heard of the fallen angel being at risk of exposure before. How could he have been arrested so suddenly? The secretary then told Johnson everything he knew. Mr. Johnson, we haven't learned the specifics yet, but I heard the fallen angel was arrested because the security department seems to have a very special weapon, and it was because of this weapon that the fallen angel was subdued. Subsequently, the arrested fallen angel confessed, and many of our personnel, including Ice Wolf and Red Lotus, were wiped out by the security department. Although somewhat annoyed by the fallen angel's incompetence, the fact remained that he had been arrested. Then, Johnson remembered the $600 million in mission funds he had just earned for the fallen angel and asked his secretary, by the way, what happened to that $600 million in mission funds? Looking at his secretary's serious expression, Johnson felt a bad premonition. Sure enough, the next moment he heard terrible news. Mr. Johnson, the bank account has been discovered by the security department and frozen. $600 million. That's no small sum. Now the money's gone, the person's gone, and crucially, nothing was gained. The thought of losing both his money and his people enraged Johnson. He grabbed a vase he had previously cherished and smashed it to the ground without a second thought. Useless. A bunch of useless trash. You can't even handle this small matter. What use are you? Despite his anger, the metro is crucial. The matter couldn't be abandoned just because the fallen angels were wiped out. Therefore, after calming down, Johnson waved to his secretary. After the secretary left, Johnson picked up his communicator and dialed a number. Once the call connected, Johnson said, Black Hand, the fallen angels have been captured. As their leader, you bear undeniable responsibility. However, considering your years of service, I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself. From this moment on, you'll be in charge of the fallen angels mission. I've explained the mission details to you. Obtain knowledge about mechas from Suze at all costs. Understand? As Johnson finished speaking, Black Hand replied in his weathered voice, Understood, sir. I guarantee the mission will be completed. However, there's one thing, sir. The mission funding I applied for hasn't been released yet. Could you see if you can help? Although he was a spy with a special identity, without mission funding, a spy was nothing but a spineless coward, all talk and no action. Hearing Black Hand's words, Johnson said, I'll figure that out. You go to Hongdu City as soon as possible and complete the mission within a week. And you must give the security department a bloody price. Johnson couldn't swallow this insult. Understood, sir. After hanging up with Black Hand, Johnson called his secretary back in. Prepare $5 million for Black Hand's mission funding. Hearing Johnson's words, the secretary was quite troubled. Seeing this, Johnson said, You're not telling me the $5 million is all gone, are you? No, Mr. Johnson, the $5 million is there, but that was already allocated to other personnel's operational funds, which you have already approved. Then hold off for now, prioritize sending the money to Black Hand. Considering the urgency of the matter, Johnson gave the order directly. Since Johnson had said so, the secretary acted according to his instructions. However, now, without the mission funds from the United States, many of the spies planted by the American security agencies could only stay put, daring not to take any action. Soon, having received the money, Black Hand didn't linger, arranging for people to accompany him, and headed towards Central City without stopping. Chief, the Fallen Angels gang has all been captured, none escaped. The Hongdu City Security Bureau has wiped out all the American spies in one fell swoop. Such big news was naturally reported to Director Wang immediately. Director Wang was overjoyed upon hearing the news. Feng Sheng, your Hongdu branch has really made a big splash this time. You've really given us face. This is all thanks to the leadership's guidance, said Feng Xing, the director of this Hongdu branch, upon hearing Director Wang's praise. However, after praising him, Director Wang immediately instructed Feng Xing, this matter is of great importance. I know Johnson's personality well, having suffered such a great loss, he certainly won't let it go easily. In my opinion, he will definitely send Black Hand, the superior of the fallen angel, to deal with him. Black Hand is proficient in racing, sniping, and many other skills. He's extremely difficult to deal with. We've suffered many losses from him. This time, your enemy is even more troublesome. You must be extra careful. Knowing yourself and your enemy is the key to victory in every battle. After some thought, Director Wang realized who Johnson might send. Please rest assured, sir, we will absolutely guarantee the safety of Suzette and Gao Luofei, and strive to bring them to justice as soon as possible. Genius, truly a genius idea. How come I didn't think of that? I never knew it could be done this way. To be honest, if it weren't for the annotations, I wouldn't understand much of this document. There's a clear knowledge gap between Suzette and us. I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel that the only one smarter than Suzette is Fuchsing. Chapter 186. Tomorrow is our wedding anniversary. Consultants would be better off not going out. Suzette's Mecha technology data greatly benefited and impressed all the academicians present. It's no exaggeration to say that this Mecha technology data alone is comparable to an entire army. And when someone mentioned revival, the academicians also remarked with emotion. Yes, Fuchsing is to Xia Kingdom what the heart is to the human body, indispensable. Yes, when I first heard the name Fuchsing, I thought he was just an unknown, all-knowing person. Later I realized I was mistaken. Fuchsing is absolutely the most outstanding genius in history. His achievements over the past 10 years are unmatched. However, after all these years, who exactly is Fuchsing? What does he look like? How old is he? Is he male or female? Nobody knows. We definitely won't find Fuchsing, but there's Suzette, right? He's a figure who's out in the open. With such great talent, I think Suzette must have many unknown technologies that he hasn't revealed yet. Brother Zet, I just heard from my wife that tomorrow is your wedding anniversary. Brother Zet, have you planned any activities? Marui asked Suzette with a gossipy look. Hearing Marui's question, Gao Luofei lowered her head slightly, a little embarrassed, but while lowering her head, her eyes secretly glanced at Suzette. The wedding anniversary was far too special, and even Gao Luofei, who didn't usually enjoy elaborate celebrations, didn't want it to pass by uneventfully. In response to Marui's question, Suzette calmly replied, "That's a secret." Marui, Songzhou, and Gao Luofei, who had been eagerly awaiting Suzette's answer, could only wait until tomorrow to find out. Team leader Guo, what's up? Suzette's phone rang while he was chatting with Songzhou and the others. Seeing it was Guo and calling, he immediately answered and asked, "Advisor Su, I've brought your relevant documents. Would it be convenient for you to come out?" Guo had come specifically to give Suzette his credentials as an advisor to the confidential department, but more importantly, to discuss matters concerning Black Hand. Guo had just received the relevant information about Black Hand. After reviewing the information on Black Hand, Guo felt that compared to Ice Wolf, Red Lotus, and even the captured Fallen Angel, Black Hand was far more troublesome than the other three. No one outside of the United States knew exactly how long Black Hand had been infiltrating. However, based on the gathered clues, since Black Hand was Fallen Angel's superior, his infiltration period must have been longer than Fallen Angel's 10-year infiltration. Most importantly, the level of harm Black Hand had caused was also greater than Fallen Angel's. For example, Black Hand had used multiple methods to obtain information about China's advanced aircraft engines and new rifles from university professors and then handed it over to the United States. Another example is how Black Hand once kidnapped a professor amidst a heavy encirclement, then escaped using his superb driving skills, comparable to a world-class race car driver. Although the professor was eventually rescued, this was considered a great disgrace by the security department, who harbored a deep desire for revenge. If Director Wang's previous thoughts were merely speculation, then through their informant, the security department had learned that Black Hand had indeed set off for Zhongdu City. Based on the timing, they were estimated to arrive in Zhongdu City by early this morning. However, aside from knowing that Black Hand was coming to Zhongdu City, they knew nothing about Black Hand, what mode of transportation they would use, or how many people they were with. Now that they were here, given Black Hand's swift and decisive actions, They might start targeting Suzette and Gao Luofei tomorrow. The pressure to protect Suzette and Gao Luofei's safety would be immense. Advisor Su, this is your identification. Please keep it safe. Seeing Suzette emerge, Guo handed him Suzette's Security Department Advisor identification. Suzette took the identification, glanced at its contents casually, and put it back in his pocket. Team Leader Guo, you're calling me so late, it must be more than just this. Just tell me what it is. An advisor's identification didn't warrant Guo personally delivering it. So Guo's arrival must mean he has something else to tell him. Hearing Suzette's words, Guo wasn't surprised at all. Suzette was so intelligent, how could he not have thought of something? Since Suzette asked, Guo spoke frankly. Advisor Su, the fallen angels have been wiped out, but according to our intelligence, the even more troublesome Black Hand has already set off for Zhongdu City. And his target is clear, you, Advisor Su. Therefore, for your safety and that of your wife, until Black Hand is caught, could you please stay home as much as possible and not go out? After Guo finished speaking, he handed Suzette the information about Black Hand that he had prepared beforehand. Guo looked very solemn at this moment, clearly under considerable pressure from Black Hand, otherwise he wouldn't be so serious. After taking it, Suzette glanced at it briefly and then closed it. Actually, what Guo didn't know was that Suzette had already dealt with Black Hand before. That year, Director Wang was the head of a branch of the Confidential Information Department in Zhongdu City. At the time, a major case involved a mastermind, but the department's weapons were simply insufficient to eliminate him completely. Therefore, Director Wang approached Suzette, asking him to design a sniper weapon with ultra-long-range automatic aiming. Chapter 187 If the mastermind dares to come, he won't escape this time. Suzette's sniper weapon, equipped with ultra-long-range automatic aiming, lived up to expectations. During that operation, although the Black Hand escaped due to initial operational difficulties, the Black Hand itself suffered heavy losses. Furthermore, its long-trained subordinates also suffered significant casualties. Therefore, upon hearing that the Black Hand was coming, Suzette didn't show the same worry as Guo. Instead, he appeared quite relaxed. It wasn't arrogance, but rather the result of his strength. Since Suzette's invention 5 years ago could easily subdue the Black Hand, and so many years had passed, especially in the past year after acquiring his cheat-like abilities, the technology Suzette created was vastly different. If the Black Hand didn't show itself, all would be well, but if the Black Hand truly intended to act, then this time it certainly wouldn't escape. Guo, unaware of all this, seeing Suzette's indifferent gaze after he finished speaking, assumed Suzette didn't take his words seriously and continued to offer words of comfort. Advisor Su, I know tomorrow is a special day, your wedding anniversary with your wife. But the Black Hand is truly more troublesome and difficult to deal with than the fallen angel. Seeing that Guo was about to continue, Suzette raised his hand to interrupt. Team Leader Guo, I understand your feelings, and I know you're thinking of us. But Team Leader Guo, I love my wife very much, and I'm confident I won't let her get hurt. By the way, don't tell Fei Fei about this, thank you. After saying that, Suzette waved to Guo and turned to go into his room. Watching Suzette's back, and recalling how Suzette's tone and expression revealed his inner confidence, Guo felt a sense of trust in him. Thinking about the Mecha and tracker today, perhaps Suzette's confidence stemmed from this. Since Suzette, the person involved, had already done this, Guo couldn't forcibly interfere with Suzette's solution. After all, if the United States wanted to obtain the Mecha data, they would definitely have to get it from Suzette. At the very least, Suzette and Gao Luofei's lives wouldn't be in danger. Although Suzette said it wasn't necessary, Guo wouldn't really not arrange personnel as Suzette said. Tomorrow, Guo would arrange several more people to secretly protect Suzette and Gao Luofei. As long as the mastermind didn't have the chance to kidnap the two, nothing should happen. Back home, seeing Suzette carrying something in his hand, Gao Luofei asked him curiously, Honey, what did you go out to do? Gao Luofei was very curious because Suzette had been gone for a while before returning, and it seemed like he was carrying some kind of document in his hand. Hearing Gao Luofei's question, Suzette said, Team Leader Guo came and brought my consultant's certificate. As he spoke, Suzette handed the certificate to Gao Luofei. Gao Luofei took the ID from Suzette's hand, opened it, and was delighted to see Suzette's handsome ID photo and impressive Security Department consultant badge. Since Team Leader Guo is here, why don't you let him sit for a while? Team leader Guo had something to attend to, so he left first, Suzair replied. Seeing the ID in Gao Luofei's hand, Marui, filled with curiosity, approached Gao Luofei. When she saw the ID, she exclaimed in surprise, Sister Luofei, Brother Zhe is a security department consultant. Although Marui hadn't had much contact with the security department, as someone within the system, she naturally held it in awe. Marui had previously heard Song Zhou say that Suzair was just a toy designer. She never imagined that Suzair was actually a security department consultant. Hearing what Marui said, Song Zhou stood up and said to Suzette, Brother Zhe, I didn't realize that. How come I didn't know about being a consultant? Hearing Song Zhou's question, Suzette said, that happened just now. Didn't you go to the hospital? That's why you didn't know. Hearing Suzette's explanation, Song Zhou nodded, but then said smugly, from now on, I can say I have a connections in the confidential department. Suzette knew Song Zhou was just showing off. If Song Zhou were the kind of person who liked to bully others, Suzair would have stopped associating with him long ago. Song Zhou, look at Brother Zhe, and then look at you. How can there be such a big difference between people? Song Zhou was displeased after Marui finished speaking. Marui, that's not right. I admit I'm not as good as Brother Zhe, I admit that, but compared to others, I'm much better. Song Zhou looked at Marui and said, don't you think that it's only because of my qualifications that I even considered you? Hearing Song Zhou's deliberately provocative words, Marui stomped her foot and turned her head away haughtily. Watching the two of them behave, Suzette and Gao Luofei observed quietly, quite content. When the clock struck 10, the clock in Suzette's house chimed. As the chime ended, Marui heard two faint sounds coming from the living room. Looking towards the sounds, she saw two white automatic cleaning robots starting up. Gao Luofei explained, we turn off the lights very early every day, usually before 10 o'clock, so we let the cleaning robots start cleaning at 10. After Gao Luofei finished speaking, Song Zhou suddenly remembered something and said to Gao Luofei, Sister-in-law, I remember this automatic cleaning robot seems to have some problems with its automatic recognition system, right? Marui happens to study this, let her take a look. Chapter 188 Report? Suzette doesn't care about the team leader position. It's not actually a major problem. Most commercially available robotic vacuum cleaners have a tendency to mechanically and rigidly navigate into blind spots or obstacles. Once inside, they get stuck and can't get out. While Suzette or Gao Luofei could easily move them themselves to free them, the point of buying a robotic vacuum cleaner is to reduce hassle and provide convenience. This problem sounds simple, but it's actually quite complicated and difficult to solve. If this technical hurdle could be overcome, licensing it would generate substantial profits from patent fees alone. However, the investment in costs and manpower would be far greater than the profits from patent fees. Therefore, since this problem doesn't significantly impact sales for major companies, it remains unresolved. Fortunately, Marui is an expert in autonomous driving system development, and she might have some solutions. After Song Zhou briefly explained the situation, Marui spoke up, Sister Luofei, most automatic cleaning robots on the market have this problem to some extent. I couldn't help with a previous issue, however, I recently gained some inspiration from a journal and completed a research project on this topic, which should be helpful. Coincidentally, Marui recently published an article titled Revival in a military scientific journal, a brief analysis of the principles of autonomous driving systems. This article greatly inspired her, as it explored a new field she hadn't considered before. While she hadn't yet designed technology for autonomous driving of large weapons like armored vehicles and tanks in complex terrain, she had researched and perfected autonomous driving technology for small, uncomplicated environments. For the automatic cleaning robot, Marui only needed to connect it to a computer and reprogram it to solve the problem. Although it would be time-consuming, it wasn't difficult. However, upon hearing Marui's words, Gao Luofei said, Marui, thank you, but my husband has already resolved this matter. Just then, the automatic cleaning robot moved to the corner behind the dining table that Song Zhou had previously noticed. Following Gao Luofei's gaze, Song Zhou and Marui saw the automatic cleaning robot effortlessly cleaning the trash under the table and chair legs. After finishing, it intelligently emerged from under the table to continue its cleaning task. Watching this, Song Zhou didn't react much. Since the matter was resolved, it saved him the trouble. However, Marui became quite curious. As someone familiar with the technical difficulties involved, Marui naturally wanted to know how Suzette had solved it. Thinking of this, Marui asked Suzette, "Brother Zet, how did you solve the problem with that automatic cleaning robot?" Hearing Marui's question, Suzette calmly replied, "Same as you, I just modified the internal program of the automatic cleaning robot." Suzette spoke casually, but Marui couldn't possibly believe it. Although she didn't understand how a toy designer could solve such a difficult problem, Marui was intensely curious about how Suzette had modified the internal program. "Brother Zet, is it convenient for me to take a look at your code?" "Don't worry, I absolutely won't leak it." Hearing Marui's words, Suzette nodded. Since Marui was an expert in the military's automatic driving systems, she must have seen the article published under the name Fuchsing some time ago. Anyway, Suzette would publish more articles on automatic driving technology in the future, from basic to advanced, so it wouldn't hurt for Marui to learn about it beforehand. With Suzette's permission, Marui went to the automatic cleaning robot, picked it up, and then, led by Songzhou, headed towards the computer. After turning on the computer, Marui began reviewing the program written by Suzette inside the automatic cleaning robot via the data cable. Obstacle recognition, mortaring response, 280 kilometers. The more Marui read through the program, the more amazed she became, unable to resist praising it. Turning to Songzhou, who stood beside her looking bewildered, she said, "Songzhou, Brother Zed is truly a genius. You know, judging from the level of this program he wrote, he's definitely a top-tier technical expert in autonomous driving systems. It's no exaggeration to say that if Brother Zell licensed this system, he could earn in nearly 100 million yuan in licensing fees every year." "Songzhou, what do you think about me introducing Brother Zed to the military's R&D department as a researcher? It's such a waste of his talent for him to be a toy designer right now." Songzhou wasn't very familiar with the programming. However, he knew all too well about Suzette's abilities. After hearing Marui praise Suzette and her plans, Songzhou coughed twice and said, "Don't even think about it. Do you know Academician Li Jianguo?" "Yes, why, how could Marui not know Academician Li Jianguo?" This afternoon, Academician Li invited Brother Zed to work in the military on research and development, offering him a group leader position. Marui was currently only a deputy group leader. Hearing Songzhou's words, Marui thought that with Suzette's skills, he could indeed handle such an important task. In Marui's opinion, Suzette would definitely agree, so she asked Songzhou, "When will Brother Zed report for duty? Maybe we'll have a chance to work together then." "Report for duty?" Brother Zed didn't agree in the end. Chapter 189 Young Scientist Review Committee Member Yi Yinglan. Hearing what Songzhou said, Marui was utterly shocked. A team leader position was something many people dreamed of, and Suzette had simply refused it. Although Songzhou didn't know what Suzette did before, he knew how valuable Suzette truly was. For Suzette, a team leader position, aside from its special connection to the military, wasn't really anything special. Songzhou noticed Marui's shocked expression and, while secretly pleased with his own awe, said to her, "Marui, there's no need to be so surprised. You'll get used to it after spending more time with Brother Zed." He spoke with the air of someone who had been there all along. Seeing this, Marui knew that if she continued to talk to Songzhou, she would only want to punch him. Therefore, Marui ignored Songzhou and continued studying the program. While she was benefiting greatly from the information, Marui's only question was how the program could run normally at a speed of 350 km per hour. "This speed is outrageous. Zedja must have added an extra zero here. How could an autopilot system still operate at 350 km per hour? Marui assumed Suzette had made a mistake due to typo and didn't think much of it. However, what Marui didn't know was that it wasn't a mistake at all. As evening approached and it was getting late, Suzette and Gao Luofei originally wanted Marui and Songzhou to stay. However, Marui and Songzhou knew that tomorrow was a special day, and staying would be inconvenient for Suzette and Gao Luofei. Since Suzette's other villas were nearby, Songzhou decided to let Marui stay there temporarily. After seeing Marui and Songzhou off, Suzette looked at Gao Luofei and said with a smile, "Wife, shouldn't we continue our unfinished mission?" "What mission?" Gao Luofei asked, looking at Suzette as if she didn't understand him. Seeing Gao Luofei feigning ignorance, Suzette didn't say much. He went to Gao Luofei, picked her up in a princess carry, and carried her towards the room. Note, this is a fictional world, all settings are based on the settings in this story. Bingbing and the others knew that Suzette and Gao Luofei would definitely get up late today, so they were considerate enough not to arrive promptly at 8 a.m., but rather a little later. I heard Professor Su did something big again last night. I regret going to bed too early and missing the exciting part. Bro, you really missed out. Chen Ming's ridiculous antics yesterday were hilarious, but I have to say, Suzette and Gao Luofei are really kind-hearted. They actually used a luxury car like a Maserati Quattroporte to transport a pregnant woman, not even worried about the car getting dirty. Fortunately, the ending was good. The pregnant woman and the baby are both safe. A new day has begun. I wonder if Professor Su is ready. The first day was tens of millions, the second day was hundreds of millions. I wonder what the result will be at the end of the third day. Look at that Volkswagen Santana. The driver looks like Suzette. By the way, it's time to change the program's experts today. Who do you think will come today? I don't know. Could it be Sister Huang? Haven't seen her in a long time. I miss her. It shouldn't be Sister Huang. Sister Huang mainly works in education. She's probably not related to Suzette. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 190 is for Suzette's review. Bingbing, who had been interacting with the viewers in the live stream, looked out the window after seeing the comments. However, Suzette's Volkswagen Santana had already driven away and disappeared from Bingbing's sight. Seeing this, Bingbing didn't think much of it. After parking the car, the group easily arrived at Gao Luofei's house. After getting up, Gao Luofei followed the aroma of delicious food wafting in the air to the table where a sumptuous breakfast was laid out. At the same time, Gao Luofei also saw the note left by Suzette. Suzette's elegant and unrestrained handwriting on the note was very pleasing to the eye. After seeing that Suzette had gone out to run errands, Gao Luofei didn't say much and sat down to eat breakfast. But she had only taken a few bites when there was a knock on the door. Gao Luofei knew that Bingbing and her group had come again. When she opened the door, she saw Bingbing's beautiful and slender figure standing in front of her. This time, however, following Bingbing was no longer Zhaolan and Sun Li, but an unfamiliar face. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and, judging from her appearance, demeanor, and figure, could be considered a beauty. She had large eyes, well-proportioned features, and a slender waist. She appeared to be a little younger than Zhaolan. She sometimes exuded a dignified air, and at other times, a very intellectual and charming aura. Bingbing, is this the new expert? Gao Luofei asked Bingbing, looking at the unfamiliar person. Not only did Gao Luofei not recognize this person, but even viewers who had watched every episode had never seen this beautiful expert before. Who is this? A new expert? I've never seen her before. So beautiful. I wonder what her area of expertise is. She has a good presence. I wonder if she's good at finding hidden money. In our program, everything is based on ability. If you can't find hidden money, then it's all for nothing. However, with today's powerful internet technology, finding someone's information is easy, isn't it? Soon, using facial recognition search, viewers found information about this beautiful expert. However, upon learning her identity, the live stream audience erupted in excitement. This beautiful expert was none other than Yi Yinglan, a review committee member of the Young Scientists Review Committee under the Chinese Academy of Sciences. The Young Scientist Award was established by the state to reward and encourage those who have made significant contributions to scientific research, based on the suggestions of numerous academicians who made outstanding contributions to the 2 bombs, 1 satellite project. To select worthy recipients of this honor from among so many people in China, in addition to recommendations and selections from various levels of organizations, review committee members like Yi Yinglan personally search for capable and talented young scientists. The Young Scientist Award is the first step. After receiving this award, significant achievements leading to being named an outstanding young scientist qualify one for the 1000 Talents program. Standing out from the 1000 Talents program leads to nomination as a candidate academician. Once the academician qualification review is passed, one naturally becomes an academician. It can be said that the Young Scientist Award is the first and crucial step towards becoming an academician. After all, unless one is a young scientist and makes a huge contribution, there is a 99% chance that one will not become an academician. Chapter 191. Yi Yinglan is also a scientific research genius. They're actually reviewers for the Young Scientists Award. Looks like they're awarding Professor Su a Young Scientist Honor Award? Do you think Professor Su, with his scientific level, needs to review this Young Scientist Award? I think directly awarding him academician wouldn't be an exaggeration. Who is Professor Su? What level of task is that? Why would they need such young reviewers to review him? What's wrong with this world? What do you mean? Are you looking down on Yi Yinglan? Don't underestimate her just because she's young. Do you know her research achievements? She did her undergraduate, master's, and doctoral studies at Beijing University, the top university in the US, MIT. After graduation, MIT wanted to hire her as a professor, so, what would you do? You'd definitely stay, right, but she didn't stay, she went back to China. Regarding the well-known 5G technology, one of the most crucial aspects, low power, wide coverage signal propagation network technology, she was the deputy leader of the project and one of the most important researchers. Yes, she's indeed very impressive, but Professor Su is clearly far more impressive. Hello, Gao Luofei, my name is Yi Yinglan. Today, I'm here as a member of the Young Scientists Review Committee to participate in the Finding Hidden Money program. Professor Su's research achievements are evident to all and beyond question. Therefore, instead of saying I'm here to review, I'd say I'm here to deliver the relevant documents for Professor Su's Young Scientist status. Of course, since I'm participating in the Finding Hidden Money program today, I can't leave out Finding Hidden Money. I might be unfamiliar with the procedures, so please bear with me. Given Su's numerous publicly displayed scientific research projects, Yi Yinglan's presence here is simply to complete a formality and fulfill a procedure. She doesn't consider herself qualified to actually review Su's work. Hearing Yi Yinglan's introduction, Gao Luofei roughly understood the situation. Gao Luofei sincerely welcomed Yi Yinglan's arrival. Su had previously declined academician Li Jianguo's invitation to serve as a military research and technical personnel. Gao Luofei knew that Su had turned down such an enviable job for her sake, but she also felt sorry for him. Now, Gao Luofei saw another opportunity that could enhance Su's reputation and status, making him more valued. If Su became a young scientist, Gao Luofei believed that with the research he had discovered in the past 2 days, becoming an academician would be just around the corner. Although Yi Yinglan had explained beforehand that there was no review process and that she was only there to go through the formalities, it was still beneficial to Su, and Gao Luofei wasn't an arrogant person. Therefore, she genuinely welcomed Yi Yinglan. Since you're here, you're a guest. Welcome, welcome. I'm having breakfast right now. Have you and Bingbing eaten? Would you like to join us? Seeing her best friend's enthusiasm, Bingbing naturally understood it was because of Su. Although she had been the one who brought them together, Bingbing now genuinely admired her best friend's judgment. Who would have thought that Gao Luofei, who disregarded everything, would actually marry Su, a peerless scientific genius? Not only that, but he's also someone who dotes on Gao Luofei beyond measure. Chapter 192. Gao Luofei, I'll be an academician's wife from now on. Who would have thought that such a passionate person would be the former Ice Queen? Hearing that he was a member of the Young Scientists Review Committee, I don't know if you noticed, but Gao Luofei's eyes were practically sparkling. This is true love, a mutual commitment. I wonder when I'll ever meet someone like that. Congratulations in advance to Professor Su on becoming a young scientist. Congratulations, what? You should say congratulations in advance to Professor Su. Oh no, congratulations to Academician Su on becoming an academician of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Academician Su, that's great. In that case, the goddess will be an academician's wife. Academician, what a sacred title. Thinking of their idol finding such a wonderful husband, Gao Luofei's fans were genuinely happy. Su's achievements were enough to make Gao Luofei resign from the entertainment industry and marry him. No, we've already had breakfast. Hearing Gao Luofei's words, Yi Yinglan smiled and waved her hand. As for Bingbing, after hearing Gao Luofei's words, she said speechlessly, Fifei, don't you even look at what time it is? It's almost lunchtime, and you're asking us if we've had breakfast. Hearing Bingbing's reminder and glancing at the time, Gao Luofei realized it was almost 10 o'clock. Gao Luofei cutely stuck out her pink tongue. Inside the office area of the Explosive Toys Company, An employee in the planning department was staring blankly downstairs when he saw a familiar yet unfamiliar figure. He couldn't believe his eyes. Rubbing his eyes, after confirming it was indeed Suzette, he immediately disregarded the presence of his superiors in the office and shouted, "Holy crap, what are you doing? Be serious during work hours. What are you holy crap about? What's there to be surprised about? Young man, be steady, don't be so impulsive." Hearing this voice, the planning department manager immediately reprimanded the employee who had made such a sound with a stern face. "Manager, no. What's the rush? Speak, manager, it's Suzette. I saw him downstairs just now, he should be coming up now." The employee had barely finished speaking when the elevator rang, the doors opened, and everyone saw the still handsome and charismatic Suzette standing before them. Instantly, even the manager who had just been reprimanding the employee lost his composure, and a unified shout rang out from the office area. Holy crap, it's no wonder they were excited. This was Suzette, Gao Luofei's husband, honorary professor of Imperial University, creator of the initial Mecha, the Candle Dragon, and other epic-making technologies, the behind-the-scenes boss of Yaoli Glass Group, a man closely protected by the security department. A man who embodies both wealth and talent. Boss Suzette, long time no see. Suzette, I'm your fan now. Professor Su, can I get your autograph? In an instant, the busy and tense atmosphere in the office area of the explosive toys company turned into a fan meeting with their idol. If they hadn't been somewhat rational and not gone too crazy, Suzette would have been surrounded. Facing these enthusiastic colleagues, Suzette simply smiled and nodded, then went straight to his office. The loud noise outside naturally startled Joe Yankson, who was in his office. "Isn't it working hours? What's all the noise outside?" Joe Yankson frowned at the noise outside, clearly displeased with the situation. "Go out and see what's going on," Joe Yankson instructed his secretary. At this moment, Joe Yankson looked rather haggard. In the past 2 days, because of Suzette, Joe Yankson had only slept for less than 4 hours in total. Joe Yankson constantly reflected on his previous attitude towards Suzette, wondering if he had offended him. After thinking it over, apart from removing Suzette from his position as group leader because of the toy car incident, it seems that I haven't offended Suzette in any other way. Chapter 193 President, something big has happened in Xia country. Joe Yankson was truly heartbroken about this. It wasn't his fault at all. If he hadn't valued Suzette, he would never have promoted him to team leader. The only fault lay with the fact that Suzette's toy car research didn't meet the client's requirements at all. Joe Yankson's secretary didn't need to inquire further. The moment she opened the door and saw Suzette, she understood why there had been such a commotion outside. Putting herself in his shoes, if she had been outside, she would have gasped in surprise too. Who is this? Suzette. What was his status? He was no longer just an ordinary technical researcher, he was someone they could only look up to with envy. Is President Joe here? Hearing Suzette's question, the secretary stammered hastily, afraid of offending him. Suzette, no, Mr. Su, Professor Su, President Su. The secretary seemed on the verge of tears as she hurriedly spoke. Call me whatever you like. Seeing this, Suzette smiled slightly, his gentle smile warming the secretary's heart and easing her tension. Professor Su, President Joe is in his office, so handsome. How come I never noticed before? If I had noticed earlier, even if we weren't officially married, being good brothers and sisters in private would have been wonderful. But it's all too late. Led by the secretary, Suzette arrived at Joe Yankson's office door. The secretary knocked and opened the door, saying to Joe Yankson, who was sitting at his desk frowning in distress, "President Joe, Professor Su is here." Joe Yankson, who had initially been annoyed that the secretary had opened the door without his permission, froze upon hearing her words. Looking up and seeing Suzette, whom he hadn't seen for 2 days, he immediately jumped up from his chair. He hurriedly came out from behind his desk, extended his hand to Suzette, and said very politely, "Mr. Su, why didn't you let me know you were coming today? If you had, I would have made arrangements to entertain you." Just 2 days ago, if Suzette had come to Joe Yankson's office, Joe Yankson certainly wouldn't have acted this way. However, Joe Yankson didn't harbor any resentment, nor dared he. After all, Suzette had earned his position through his own hard work. Mr. Joe, there's no need for such trouble. I'm here to say goodbye. Thank you for your trust this past year. Hearing that Suzette was there to resign, not to cause trouble, Joe Yankson breathed a sigh of relief. At least Sue's heir wasn't there to cause him any trouble. Zhou Yangxin wasn't surprised at all by Sue's resignation. Before, when no one knew Sue's true identity and net worth, it was fine. Sue's could work peacefully and do what he wanted. But now, with Sue's identity exposed, the money Sue's earned in a week was almost equal to Zhou Yangxin's own total assets. Sue's stayed. Could Zhou Yangxin still pay him the same salary as before? However, despite this, Zhou Yangxin still didn't want Sue's to go through the formal resignation process. After all, as long as Sue's was with his company, Zhou Yangxin could benefit from his influence. But Zhou Yangxin couldn't say anything about it. Since Sue's had submitted his resignation, he must have his reasons. Mr. Zhou, I still have some things to do. I need to hand them over to my colleagues. Sue's actions made Zhou Yangxin look at him with higher regard. Someone like Sue's could simply not come and do nothing, which would be normal. But Sue's didn't do that. Instead, he saw things through to the end, handling everything properly before leaving. Sue's attention to such details was a testament to his ability to achieve great things. Without any delays, after Sue's finished handing over his work, Zhou Yangxin quickly completed the resignation procedures for him. Professor Su, please come visit more often. You're always welcome here. We won't be able to see Sue's anymore. I'm so sad. Afterwards, Zhou Yangxin and Sue's colleagues at the explosive toys company, who had worked with him for many days, escorted him downstairs, watching him get into the Santana and disappear from their sight. After leaving, Sue's used the candle dragon technology to distract the security department personnel, then got out of the car and went to the secret underground research and development base. Team leader, we've lost him. Upon losing track of Sue's, the security department personnel immediately reported the situation to the security department. When they heard that the location where they had lost track of Sue's was the same place where he was last spotted, Gao indirectly said, just wait in the parking lot in the square. Advisor Sue's Santana is there. Continue protecting him when he comes out. Everyone has their own little secrets, especially someone like Sue's. Gao, following Director Wang's instructions, wouldn't interfere too much with Sue's secrets. With practice ease, Sue's quickly took the elevator to his private underground research base. This was the first time he hadn't been here for such a long time since his honeymoon with Gao Luofei. To be honest, seeing this place felt incredibly familiar. After a brief settling in, Sue's took out a complete set of technical documents, including those on miniature-controlled arc fusion reactor technology, and inertial damper vibration filtering and protection technology, and began a frantic study session. Lost in his studies, Sue's forgot about time and everything else. Aside from the rustling of pages, the scratching of pens on paper, and Sue's occasional shifts in thought, there was no other movement or sound. Sue's was studying, but the outside world didn't stop functioning because of his actions. The inevitable happened. President, something big has happened in Xia country. I need to report this to you. Chapter 194 Sue's must be sued immediately. China, currently the world's largest automobile market, attracts numerous brands, including Rolls-Royce, Lamborghini, Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, and Ford, all deeply cultivating their markets and vying for a share of this lucrative market. Maserati, naturally, also values this market highly. Just yesterday, Sue's actions caused a huge stir online. Especially after the discovery of mature, publicly tested autonomous driving technology suitable for sports cars, particularly in a Maserati Quattroporte, the Maserati China branch investigated and immediately reported to headquarters. Is this related to autonomous driving? Facing the folder handed to him by his beautiful vice president, Maserati President Alfred frowned and asked directly upon hearing it concerned China. Yes, President. Vice President Mona, though confused as to how Alfred knew without even looking at the documents, dared not question him and could only reply with excitement. The birth of such an excellent autonomous driving system, especially one installed in a Maserati Quattroporte and gaining fame in China, was, in Moana's view, a powerful promotion for the Maserati sports car brand. Moana believed that by acquiring this system, Maserati could seize the opportunity to surpass Lamborghini, Porsche, and other top-tier supercars. Indeed, Alfred was the friend Jack had mentioned. Although Jack knew from the live stream that the autonomous driving technology he disliked was far superior to that of their Thomas Research Institute, he didn't want to admit it or tell Alfred. After all, That would imply that their Thomas Research Institute, the world's most advanced autonomous driving technology base, was inferior to an unknown Chinese developer. Therefore, Alfred's impression of the SU's autonomous driving system remained that of Jack's description of it as incompetent and useless. During this period, Alfred had heard about autonomous driving systems twice, once from Jack this morning, and once during the WCC competition. Initially, Alfred was indeed very interested in the Zhaowu, which had performed exceptionally well at the WCC. However, in Alfred's view, the Zhaowu was much smaller than a normal vehicle, and its performance requirements were also much lower. Furthermore, the Zhaowu's owner was shrouded in mystery, and seeing that other dealers hadn't taken any action, Alfred also refrained from doing so. Mona, this matter in Xia country is extremely serious. If something goes wrong, it will completely ruin Maserati's image in the eyes of the Xia people, and our brand will suffer immense damage. Pass the word down to Xia country to initiate all legal means to punish this person who illegally modified the Maserati Quattroporte. Alfred's tone was extremely firm and stern, as if Suze had committed some unforgivable crime. Faced with Alfred's actions, Mona, as the vice president, who had already reviewed the documents, was completely stunned. This wasn't right. Had the president made a mistake? Someone had promoted Maserati, and now he was suing them? Wasn't this tarnishing the Maserati brand? After Alfred finished speaking, he noticed that Mona hadn't followed his instructions and was instead looking at him with a very strange expression. This behavior made Alfred feel that his authority had been challenged, and he said with displeasure, "Vice President Mona, is there anything else?" Normally, Alfred would address Mona directly, but now, with the addition of Vice President, Mona knew that Alfred was very dissatisfied with her. However, Mona, worked for the Maserati brand, not for Alfred. She couldn't just watch Alfred destroy the brand image that Maserati had painstakingly built in China. Ignoring Alfred's reaction, Mona said, "Mr. President, I don't know if you've misunderstood something, but I think you should take a good look at this document. If, after reading it, you still make the same decision, then I will need to report to the board of directors to review your loyalty to the Maserati brand." With that, Mona placed the folder on Alfred's desk. Moana's actions led Alfred to believe that she was no longer merely provoking him, but intended to replace him. After resolving to find an opportunity to replace Moana, Alfred reluctantly opened the document. As he read its contents, his face flushed, then paled, then turned red. His expression shifted drastically, the document's contents deeply affecting him. After finishing the document and closing it, Alfred finally understood why Moana had so vehemently opposed him. If Moana had truly acted as he had suggested, his actions would have caused Maserati significant losses and offended a scientific genius. Simultaneously, Alfred began to deeply doubt Jack's motives for his kind warning early that morning. He also harbored resentment towards Jack. He had thought he had a good relationship with Jack, but Jack had betrayed him. Thinking about how a product in Xia country had developed more advanced autonomous driving technology than the Thomas Institutes, Alfred felt a sense of schadenfreude. "You tricked me. Now let's see what you have to be proud of, you little dwarf." Chapter 195 Who drove my Maserati Quattroporte? Having realized he'd been tricked by Jack, Alfred naturally changed his orders after learning about what had happened in Xia country. Alfred believed that such an event had surely reached more than just Maserati. Other sports car and luxury car brands would undoubtedly be scrambling for their prey like wolves smelling blood. Suze's choice to ride in a Maserati Quattroporte indicated a strong endorsement of the brand. Compared to other automakers, Maserati had a natural advantage. They absolutely had to secure a partnership with Suze. Even if an exclusive deal wasn't possible, they had to get priority access to the market. Price is negotiable, but you must reach an agreement with Suze. "Mona, if you have time, go there yourself." Receiving Alfred's instructions, Mona left the CEO's office. As Alfred had predicted, the various automakers reacted in unison after witnessing the performance of a Maserati Quattroporte equipped with autonomous driving technology in Xia country. "Buy. We have to buy. Where's Suze? He's not up yet, is he?" Entering the room, seeing only one set of chopsticks and a bowl on the large dining table, and Suze still nowhere to be seen, Bingbing teased Gao Luofei. Suze left. "He's busy with his own things," Gao Luofei explained, hearing Bingbing's words. Gao Luofei's words confirmed that the person in the Santana earlier was indeed Suze. "Fifei, did Suze make this?" Seeing Gao Luofei enjoying her breakfast, Bingbing, who had never seen Gao Luofei make it before, asked curiously. Yes, my husband made it. How is it? It looks, smells, and tastes delicious. It's your loss if you don't eat it, Gao Luofei boasted to Bingbing. Gao Luofei didn't have a big appetite to begin with, and after a short while, she finished her hot milk in a glass, thus completing her breakfast. Knock knock. Just then, someone knocked on the door from the outside. After placing the dishes into the automatic dishwasher, Gao Luofei, remembering what Suze had told her yesterday, pointed to the air. Under everyone's gaze, a virtual image appeared at Gao Luofei's fingertip. The virtual image showed a real-time scene at Suze's front door. In fact, after the successful development of Candle Dragon, Suze had already connected the Candle Dragon and Skynet systems in his house. As long as they were within the villa, Gao Luofei could freely access the Candle Dragon and Skynet systems. Suze had granted Gao Luofei this access before going to bed last night. This was the first time Gao Luofei had used this function, and her eyes were slightly excited. Looking at the virtual image in front of her, Gao Luofei understood the situation at her front door. She didn't recognize the unfamiliar couple dressed in suits. Information retrieval, however, as soon as Gao Luofei finished speaking, the couple's information appeared on the large screen. Name, Zhang Qiang. Occupation, President of Lamborghini Xia China Region. Name, Zhao Ling. Occupation, Assistant to the President of Lamborghini Xia China Region. Suze currently only knows of the existence of the program team, so his access is limited to information that everyone can find online. While he can search for confidential information, he hasn't granted this access to Gao Luofei. Even so, for most people, especially those with specific work requirements, the scene on the virtual screen was quite astonishing. Although the technology wasn't particularly advanced, achieving this level was still impressive. This futuristic scene still elicited envious expressions from viewers in the live stream who had seen similar scenarios countless times. Through this information, not only Gao Luofei and Bingbing learned about the visitors, but the viewers in the live stream also learned about it. When will we finally be able to buy the Candle Dragon? This scene is so cool. Why did I have to see this? I know we definitely can't buy it. What? I'm crying because I'm so envious. Can't you have some consideration for me? By the way, why did the president of Lamborghini's Xiaoguo region decide to come here? Whoever asked that question obviously didn't watch the Private Money live stream last night. If they had, they definitely wouldn't have such a question. Not only that, they definitely haven't caught up with today's news either. The president of Lamborghini? What are they doing here? After seeing the information about the visitors, Gao Luofei was very puzzled. She didn't think she had ever dealt with them before. Seeing Gao Luofei's expression, Bingbing, who knew the inside story, said, "Fifei, really? Didn't you see today's news?" Hearing Bingbing's words, Gao Luofei was even more confused. "Yes, I didn't see it today. What's wrong? Did something terrible happen today?" Seeing this, Bingbing took out her phone and pulled up a video that currently had 5.601 million views, 881,000 likes, and 782,000 shares, intending to explain the current situation to the still confused Gao Luofei. Just after Bingbing pulled up the video, a prompt appeared on the virtual screen asking if she wanted to play the video. Gao Luofei clicked OK. Then, the events that happened to the Maserati president last night began to play on the huge virtual screen. As for Zhang Qiang and Zhao Ling outside the door, no one thought of them anymore. After learning that Gao Luofei and her group were live streaming, and seeing that the door remained closed, the two entered the live stream room. Upon seeing the situation inside, they were quite helpless, realizing that Gao Luofei had forgotten about them. Considering their status, this was the first time they'd been treated so coldly. However, they dared not retaliate and could only wait quietly. "Hey, isn't my Maserati Quattroporte parked in the underground parking lot of Dinte building? Who drove it out for me?" Chapter 196. Fortunately, this driver's skills are good. This video was edited and spliced together by someone with ulterior motives, resulting in inconsistent image quality. In the video, Gao Luofei couldn't even clearly see who was driving her Maserati Quattroporte. How could Gao Luofei not be astonished to see her beloved Maserati Quattroporte, which Suze had painstakingly repaired, being driven out without her knowledge? The video showed the Quattroporte being driven out of the Dinte building when she was with Suze. The two knew each other well, so it couldn't have been Suze who arranged it. After ruling out Suzette, Gao Luofei began to suspect the security of the Dingtai building. Her Maserati Quattroporte had been driven away by a stranger, and where it had gone were all questions. Gao Luofei even thought about what happened yesterday. Was it the work of foreign spies? They must have their eyes on the Candle Dragon with its incredible capabilities in the Maserati Quattroporte. Gradually, Gao Luofei's smooth, white brows furrowed. Seeing this, Bingbing didn't explain anything to Gao Luofei. After all, Gao Luofei would understand what had happened after watching the video. The video continued playing, showing the Maserati Quattroporte speeding away from Dingtai building onto Huancheng North Road. The car was traveling at a constant speed of 120 miles per hour. Watching this, Gao Luofei's expression grew increasingly grim. Who is driving your beloved car so recklessly on the road? However, what Gao Luofei saw next shocked her. Is this reckless? Luckily, the driver's skills are decent, otherwise something terrible would have happened. In Gao Luofei's eyes, Lao Wei's behavior was a serious irresponsibility towards his own life. As Gao Luofei solemnly uttered these words, the viewers in the official live stream of Finding Hidden Money laughed at her earnestness. Although this isn't the most appropriate occasion, please forgive me, I really couldn't help it, I'm dying of laughter. I'm curious how Gao Luofei will react after finding out about the Maserati Quattroporte. This video is so good, I could watch it 100 times. I have to say, I really hope Suzette's self-driving system can be released soon. If it is, it would be a lifesaver for someone like me who's failed my driving test 5 times already. But seriously, if this system comes out, it seems like the driver profession will become unnecessary. While the viewers in the live stream were enthusiastically discussing this, Gao Luofei also witnessed the actual situation inside the Maserati Quattroporte. When Gao Luofei saw that the Maserati Quattroporte didn't have a driver and that she was driving her home, she looked at Bingbing standing beside her, laughing heartily, and a row of black lines appeared on Gao Luofei's forehead. Bingbing, hearing Gao Luofei's gritted teeth, Bingbing quickly said, Okay, I won't laugh anymore. Even so, Bingbing's smile didn't immediately stop. After all, Gao Luofei's reaction was truly hilarious. However, seeing Bingbing's reaction, Gao Luofei's initial tension regarding the pregnant woman's condition eased. Judging from Bingbing's reaction, the pregnant woman should be alright in the end. For the next few minutes, Gao Luofei watched the entire video with a mix of tension, excitement, and pride. See? My husband's technology is amazing. It saved another family's future. After the video finished playing, Gao Luofei understood why the Lamborghini CEO had come to her house. Wasn't it because they were interested in Suzette's autonomous driving technology? Even if they were interested, they would definitely offer a very competitive price. But since Suzette wasn't there, they were destined to have made a wasted trip. Gao Luofei went to the front door and opened it. She saw that Zhang Qiang and Zhao showed no signs of displeasure despite the long wait. Upon seeing Gao Luofei open the door, Zhang Qiang immediately greeted her, saying, Hello, Ms. Gao, I'm Zhang Qiang. Today, I'm representing the Lamborghini Group to discuss your husband's self-driving technology. We're very sincere and intend to purchase this technology for 100 million. After a brief response, Gao Luofei cut to the chase, saying, You should discuss cooperation with my husband. He's not home right now. Please wait until he returns. Hearing Gao Luofei's blunt dismissal, Zhang Qiang and Zhao smiled awkwardly and tactfully took their leave. After seeing off the Lamborghini family, before Gao Luofei could even close the door, another couple rushed over, eagerly saying, Hello, Ms. Gao, I'm from Ferrari, offering 100 to 200 million. Before Ferrari could finish speaking, Gao Luofei was like a hornet's nest. 3 more companies immediately swarmed in, introducing themselves. Hello Ms. Gao, I'm from Mercedes-Benz. We offer 150 million. Hello Ms. Gao, I'm a representative from Volkswagen. We offer 200 million. Hello Ms. Gao, I'm from Tesla. We offer 300 million. Faced with these increasingly higher offers, Gao Luofei still showed no sign of being tempted. Money might have been something Gao Luofei valued highly in the past. But after learning about her husband's substantial secret stash of money, what did it matter how much money she had? Happiness was the most important thing. Before Gao Luofei could even issue an order to leave, the security personnel hiding in the shadows, seeing the growing number of people, emerged from the shadows to separate the crowd from Gao Luofei and protect her safety. Alright, this isn't the place to do business. Wait until Suzette returns, then you can talk to him. With that, Gao Luofei ignored everyone's reactions, closed the door, and disappeared from their sight. This scene was witnessed by the viewers in the live stream, who all secretly admired Gao Luofei. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 197. A fool wouldn't make money if he could, it has to be 10 billion. Although everyone knew Suze was wealthy, no one would really care how much money he had. Yet, Gao Luofei calmly refused all offers of hundreds of millions. This earned her the silent admiration of many viewers for her decisiveness. However, with so many viewers in the live stream, not everyone shared the same opinion, and some dissenting voices inevitably emerged. What? I bet he thinks the money isn't enough. That's enough. Making money isn't shameful, but be careful not to ask for too much, or you won't be able to sell it. Exactly, this technology is advanced now, but it will be surpassed sooner or later. Gao Luofei ignored these comments in the live stream. She believed the truth would prevail, and these people weren't worth her explanations. Just then, there was another knock on the door. At first, Gao Luofei thought it was the car dealers and ignored it. But she quickly realized her mistake, because she heard Marui and Songzhou's voices from outside. Fifei, it's me. Upon seeing this, Gao Luofei opened the door and saw Marui and Songzhou, with Guoan standing behind them. Welcome. After they greeted each other, Gao Luofei realized that Marui actually knew Yi Yinglan. Some viewers in the live stream also immediately recognized Marui. It's actually Marui. She truly is a beautiful scientist, possessing both beauty and talent. Marui? Who's that? I don't even know Marui. She's a renowned military expert in the field of autonomous driving for our Xia Kingdom's military. Let me put it this way. I've heard that Marui's autonomous driving technology is only slightly behind the world's most advanced autonomous driving technology, which is claimed by the Thompson Institute in the US. Slightly behind? Isn't that still lagging behind? I heard the Maserati president is good friends with the head of the Thompson Institute. Look, Maserati hasn't even shown up yet. The result is obvious. Maserati definitely doesn't think much of Suze's technology. They might even sue. After all, if something goes wrong, who's responsible? What are you talking about? Seeing is believing. Fine, I won't argue with you. Someone like you naturally doesn't understand how difficult it is for us to catch up from nothing to this level. Look at other countries, who else can achieve this? After exchanging pleasantries, the group sat down and chatted briefly about everyday matters. Marui then spoke first about the purpose of her visit. Fifei, I'm here on behalf of my organization. There are two things I'd like to discuss with you. Marui belonged to the military, and the organization she referred to was naturally not some other institution. Gao Luofei straightened her posture, awaiting Marui's next words. Fifei, I won't beat around the bush. You probably already guessed why I'm here. Let's talk about the autonomous driving system first. Fifei, you should know that I research autonomous driving systems. I've seen the video of Consultant Su's autonomous driving system, and frankly, I was shocked. Yesterday, when I saw the program code Consultant Su wrote for the automatic cleaning robot, I thought he had made a mistake regarding the speed. But after learning about what happened last night, I understand now that it wasn't Consultant Su who made a mistake, but rather that I was short-sighted. Fifei. It's no exaggeration to say that Consultant Su is the first person to achieve such smooth and safe autonomous driving technology at such high speeds. This technology is of great significance for the future development of autonomous driving technology for military equipment. Besides this technology, the related technologies of Zhulan are epic-making. As someone who experienced it firsthand, Fifei, you have more authority to speak on this than I do. I had Songzhou bring me here today precisely to purchase these two technologies. Actually, it's not just me. Team leader Guo also came with the same need. Hearing Marui mention him, Guo nodded solemnly. Please name your price, Fei. We're willing to pay any amount, Marui said sincerely. After Marui finished speaking, Guo, representing the confidential department and entrusted by Director Wang, said to Gao Luofei, our confidential department shares the same sentiment as expert Marui. We will acquire it no matter the cost. The amount of money is negotiable, but acquiring the technology is essential. Whether it's autonomous driving technology or Candle Dragon, each technology has extraordinary value and significance. Although acquiring them might not immediately surpass the technology developed by Suzette, China, standing on the shoulders of giants, has a huge advantage over other countries that don't have such a foundation. Especially in the United States, even being superior in one industry or technology is a huge victory. After hearing Marui and Guoen's words, the viewers in the live stream were all astonished. Holy crap, did I hear that right? Just name your price, our country is really rich now. If Gao Luofei asks for 10 billion, would we even pay? If you ask me, negotiations shouldn't be like this. I don't know who sent Marui to handle this. If it were me, I'd definitely find out Suzette's price range first, instead of letting Gao Luofei manipulate me like this. Zhulin is too advanced, there's no price to reference, so I won't comment. But regarding the autonomous driving technology, since Tesla raised the price to 300 million and Gao Luofei still wouldn't sell, it means her expected price is definitely higher. I bet the autonomous driving technology will cost at least 500 million. 500 million? I'd say 1 billion, plus Zhulin, 5 billion. Anyway, isn't it set any price is acceptable? If it were me, I'd package both technologies together and ask for 10 billion. It's stupid not to make money. Chapter 198 Watt. Sold for only 200 million. Actually, I already discussed this matter with Suzette last night. Looking at the two people who were anxiously awaiting her offer, Gao Luofei didn't immediately quote an outrageous price as the viewers in the live stream had suggested. Instead, she spoke calmly. Both of them knew that Suzette was the one with the most decision-making power in this matter. Hearing Gao Luofei say that Suzette had already discussed this with her, Marui and Guoen were both curious about the content of their conversation. I think you two should be aware of my identity and family background. I know the importance of these two technologies, so I definitely won't sell the complete versions of these two technologies to any foreign individuals, organizations, or countries. This was the first time Gao Luofei had heard about her family background from her. Before this, everyone only knew that Gao Luofei came from a military family, and nothing else. But now, judging from Marui and Guoen's reactions when Gao Luofei said this, the viewers in the live stream understood that Gao Luofei's family background was probably not just that of a simple military family. However, the viewers who were Gao Luofei's fans weren't too surprised by this. For them, their support had shifted from simply supporting Gao Luofei as an individual to supporting the couple, Gao Luofei and Suzette. That's great. If our goddess has a powerful background, then no one will be foolish enough to try and steal Professor Su's technology. I've seen this kind of thing many times. I wonder just how powerful our goddess's background is. After all, if her background isn't strong, someone of a higher rank will always try to take advantage. I don't think it's too high. After all, if she were truly powerful, how could Suzette have been just an ordinary toy developer before? No matter what, we are our goddess's strong support. If anyone tries to take advantage, we will stand up for them. Yes, we mustn't let others affect Professor Su. After all, the technology Professor Su is developing is extremely useful to our country. Gao Luofei was unaware of the words and emotions of the viewers in the live stream. She continued speaking to Marui and Guoen. As for Suzette, my husband, I know him well. He also opposes selling the technology entirely to foreign countries. After all, we've already cooperated before, and I think you all know that. As for the price of these two technologies, after research, the final price is 200 million yuan. Gao Luofei's words shocked everyone. 100 million? Not 1 billion or 10 billion, but only 100 million. This price, compared to the actual value of these two technologies, is practically a drop in the ocean. Am I hearing things? Only 200 million. Who said Gao Luofei would quote an astronomical price? 200 million is practically free. Goddess, are you sure you didn't misspoke? Perhaps you could say it again. 200 million? That's too low. Not only the viewers in the live stream, but even Marui and Guoen showed disbelief when they heard Gao Luofei's words. Before coming, they had considered many prices, but 200 million was definitely beyond their comprehension. For Suzette, the sole purpose of hiding these technologies from Gao Luofei was to use the private saving system to obtain technology points, which could then be exchanged for more scientific technologies. Now that these two technologies had been exposed, even if they were worth a lot of money, it would be meaningless to Suzette. After all, If Suze's assets were carefully calculated, he and Gao Luofei could spend them all, even if they spent recklessly. As for Gao Luofei, she didn't care much about the price, it didn't matter to her anyway. As for how the 200 million yuan price came about, that goes back to last night. During a break last night, Gao Luofei thought about how many people had asked her about selling the technologies in the past 2 days, so she asked Suze for his thoughts on how to handle them. Suze's answer was concise. Regardless of what the technology was, as long as the country was willing to buy it, each technology would be sold for 100 million yuan. Although what happened yesterday was a close call, Suze and Gao Luofei had witnessed the actions of the military and the security department. Since money is no object, why not do a favor? That's how the 200 million came about. Of course, such a low price comes with conditions. Of course, it's not just 200 million, there are some additional conditions. Hearing Gao Luofei's next words, the viewers in the live stream breathed a sigh of relief. Right, it must be some very difficult additional conditions to meet. I knew it couldn't be as simple as just 200 million, that's simply a fantasy. Tell me quickly, let me hear how outrageous the conditions are. Facing the additional conditions that Gao Luofei was about to propose, Marui and Guoan listened patiently and attentively. My conditions with Suze aren't difficult, and they're easy for you to agree to. The technology you purchase can only be used for military purposes and missions. It cannot be licensed to others again, nor can it be incorporated into products for sale, especially not in the civilian sector. Of course, for the sake of confidentiality, if we were to sell this technology, it wouldn't be the complete version, but rather a stripped-down version. In Marui and Guoan's view, Gao Luofei's condition wasn't even a condition. For them, it was simply what they should do. Since you two agree, let's sign the contract. Whether you sign with the military or the security department is up to you. Of course, if you feel you have enough money, you can buy 2 copies. Chapter 199, If anyone is offended, the Great Wall Guardian instance will be activated. Actually, another factor was yesterday. If it weren't for Guoan and his group, she really wouldn't have had such a wonderful day with Suzette. Women are emotional creatures, and Gao Luofei was no exception. Hearing Gao Luofei's teasing words, even Guoan, whose face was usually as cold as ice, showed a faint smile. Soon, after the discussion was finished, Marui took out a contract and signed it with Gao Luofei. After the contract was signed, Gao Luofei took out a hard drive. Rui, team leader Gao, wait a moment, let me see where the autonomous driving system is. I'll transfer it to this hard drive. This hard drive was also prepared by Suze for Gao Luofei in advance. Gao Luofei opened it to take a look, since what she had discussed with Suze before was only Zhulan. Gao Luofei, who didn't know about the existence of the autonomous driving system, hadn't thought about it. However, after opening the hard drive, Gao Luofei found that in addition to Zhulan, there was also a folder belonging to the autonomous driving system. Seeing this, Gao Luofei understood that Suze had prepared everything. Then, Gao Luofei handed the hard drive to Marui. Gao Luofei provided the information, but how the military and the security department would divide it was not her concern. Marui and Guoan were surprised that things had progressed so quickly. They had already signed a contract in such a short time. Not only the two of them, but the viewers in the live stream were also quite surprised by the speed and efficiency. Holy crap, the speed at which this contract was signed. Is this the 200 million contract? It feels more like a joke than my 100 yuan IOU. They really sold it for 200 million, no wonder they're a military family, their awareness is so high. Actually, it's a two-way street. The military and security departments protected them so much yesterday. Gao Luofei and Suze doing this is their way of repaying them. I'm a fan now. From now on, anyone who wants to criticize these two will have to get my permission. This little box contains technology worth billions. Is it okay to let us see it like this? Isn't this inducing us to commit crimes? To commit crimes, you need to have the ability. I'm near Jinlan residential area. I'm telling you, the entire area is under martial law right now. If you make any move, you'll be facing a peanut. Exactly. This level of difficulty requires an entire army corps. Don't even mention others. Even the US wouldn't dare do this. If someone actually dares to do it, then congratulations. They've activated the Great Wall Watch instance and are about to face the wrath. Holding the hard drive, knowing it was important, Marui took her leave. Before leaving, however, in a corner unseen by others, Gao Luofei handed Marui a square box-shaped device. "What's this, Zhulin? You should be able to use it on the road," Gao Luofei whispered to Marui, explaining the purpose of Zhulin. Even a secret transaction couldn't be guaranteed to be airtight. Someone could easily report it. With such a large-scale operation, and the entire transaction being broadcast live by the Finding Hidden Money program, some small fry lurking in the shadows would undoubtedly seize the opportunity to get their hands on the hard drive containing top-tier scientific technology, just like fish smelling fish. The existence of Zhulin served as a backup plan. With the matter resolved, Marui and Guoan left. Guoan still rode in his security-equipped vehicle, while Marui sat in a specially made military armored vehicle. 4 other vehicles escorted the armored vehicle. If Suzette and Gao Luofei saw the people inside the escort vehicle, they would definitely recognize them. They were none other than the Special Operations Team led by Wu Hua. They were fully armed and on high alert. Not long after the vehicle drove off, a message came through Guoan's earpiece. "Team leader, Black Hand is making an operation." This matter was of great importance. Guo knew Black Hand would be keeping a close eye on things, and he was quite surprised by their action. Since monitoring Black Hand yesterday, their every word and action had been under surveillance by the security department. To prevent Black Hand from interfering today, the security department deliberately sent people to patrol the vicinity of Black Hand's hiding place. If Black Hand sensed something was wrong, they would move on to the next location. They had done this 3 times in one night. Even with an iron body, such high-intensity activity would take a toll on both body and mind. Guoan thought Black Hand would rest today, but unexpectedly, they were planning another operation. This made Guoan wonder if Black Hand was on some kind of steroid. However, the information quickly reported by the team members resolved Guoan's doubts. Team leader, Black Hand didn't act personally. Instead, he notified Japan to cooperate. Upon hearing this, a bloodthirsty glint appeared in Guoan's eyes. Japanese spies are well hidden and difficult to uncover under normal circumstances. Now, with Black Hand's help, they could wipe them out in one fell swoop. In fact, the American High Command, who were somewhat familiar with Japanese history, knew exactly what Japan was thinking. They were wary of this underling and generally wouldn't let him know anything particularly important. After all, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't try to take it for himself during the mission. However, America's activities in China were hampered by the fallen angels wasting their funds, and they had entered a dormant phase. Sending others in such a short time would be difficult. So, with his superior's approval, Black Hand dialed the phone number of the Japanese spy embedded in China and ordered him to take action. "Hey, Black Hand, don't worry, I guarantee the mission will be completed." Upon receiving Black Hand's orders, the head of Japan's spy network in the central urban area readily agreed. However, when assigning tasks, he directly told his subordinates, "Remember, that hard drive is of paramount importance to Japan, you must get your hands on it." Chapter 200. You don't actually think Professor Su is already an academician? Candle Dragon and autonomous driving technology is something Japan, a country constantly wary of its powerful neighbor and eager to possess all its treasures, would never let go of. As for the culprit, once the hard drive is obtained, they can simply claim they didn't get it. The higher-ups will handle it. As for herself, this is a major achievement, and she'll definitely be praised. After seeing the guests off, Yi Yinglan could officially begin her own procedures. "Fifei, is Suzette's ID card at home?" "It should be." "Let me look." With that, Gao Luofei got up from the sofa and went to her room. A moment later, Gao Luofei returned with Suzette's ID card, smiling broadly. "Suzette didn't go out today, here you go." Gao Luofei handed the ID card to Yi Yinglan. After receiving Suzette's ID card, Yi Yinglan took out her phone and opened the special app for young scientists to enter information. "So, I got a sneak peek at the steps to becoming a young scientist." "What are you talking about? Even if you know how to register, do you have the skills?" "Who says I can't become a young scientist? I can't learn about it. Can I brag about it when I'm picking up girls later?" "Exactly, if word gets out, I've mastered a skill." After a series of smooth operations, she activated the scanning function and scanned Suzette's ID card. After scanning both sides, the input button on Yi Yinglan's phone lit up, and she clicked to input. However, after clicking, Yi Yinglan saw a message pop up on the app interface. The message was very simple, simply stating, "Ms. Yi Yinglan, the person you wanted to invite to register, Suzette, has already registered." "Huh? How could this be?" This really surprised Yi Yinglan. Logically, Suze shouldn't have already registered. Fifei, have you heard Suze mention that he's a young scientist? Hearing Yi Yinglan's question, Gao Luofei carefully recalled the details and then said with certainty, "It's okay, Suze has never mentioned it." Yi Yinglan thought about it and realized that if Suze had already registered as a young scientist, she wouldn't be here. Could she have made a mistake? With this thought in mind, Yi Yinglan exited the registration system and re-entered it. She repeated the process, scanning Suze's ID card again. This time, Yi Yinglan was much more careful and attentive than before, afraid of making another mistake. However, the result was still the same as before. The app system page still popped up a window saying, "Ms. Yi Yinglan, the person you wanted to invite to register, Suzette, has already registered." If it happened once, it might be due to Yi Yinglan's own mistake, but since it happened again, the result was clearly not her fault. Since it wasn't her fault, could it be that the system made a mistake, or that there was a bug in the system? Thinking it was a system error, Yi Yinglan apologized to Gao Luofei, saying, "I'm sorry, Fifei, it must be a problem with our system. I'll call a colleague and have him fix this bug." "It's alright," Gao Luofei waved her hand, indicating she didn't mind. "Hey, Brother Liu, our app seems to be having problems. I'm trying to register Suzette, but it keeps showing can't register." Yi Yinglan was trying to get the app's maintenance staff to explain the issue, but the viewers in the live stream had already started speculating wildly about the situation. Especially after witnessing Suze's peculiarities these past few days. They also considered this matter unusual. Forgive me, but after seeing Professor Su's unbelievable secret stash of money, I have a feeling this is going to be a big deal. What incredible secret stash of money does Professor Su have? It seems like this is the starting point for us to discover it. You guys don't need to be so sensitive. Maybe it's just a small bug. Besides, didn't you hear Goddess Gao say that Susan never mentioned the young scientist thing? Just because Gao Luofei hasn't heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The initial Mecha, the Zhao toy car, the Yaoli glass group, the virtual device Zulan, the diamond black card, the behind-the-scenes boss of the Yaoli glass group, etc. Did Gao Luofei know about these things from the beginning? We uncovered them step by step. That shouldn't be the case. Isn't everyone's information about the young scientists publicly available online? I've already checked, and Suze isn't listed. The young scientist's information is indeed public, but some positions don't need to be publicized. Watson, you seem to have discovered some serious blind spot. Young scientists, the 1,000 Talents program, alternate academicians, it seems like they all require public announcements, except for one, academicians. Academician? Impossible. You're not saying Suze is already an academician, are you? Are you kidding me? If there were such a young academician, how could you be so unknown? Exactly. If Suze were an academician, how could the country allow such an important scientific talent to remain just an ordinary toy technology developer? Dude, judging from your name, you must be a fan of Suzette. As a senior, I advise you, guessing is fine, joking is fine, but it should be based on reality. Almost no one believed the person who said Suze was already an academician. After all, academicians were revered figures in their hearts. However, what they didn't know was that this person's guess was indeed true. 9 years ago, in the second year of Suze's research under the codename Revival, he had already been exceptionally promoted to academician by the state. Since young scientists are part of the same system at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, it's natural that when Yi Yinglan registers as a young scientist using Suze's information, it will show, already registered. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.